all are safe. Please come out of your buildings to a safe spot, but do not panic. Do not use elevators. For any emergency help, dial 112. So that statement coming out from the Delhi police as well, saying that step out of your buildings because the tremors continue. At the same time, do not use elevators. Nikhil, as you were pointing out, that Sonipat saw an earthquake, tremors of 2.7 on the Richter scale around 11 a.m. We got the report at 225, 4.6 magnitude on the Richter scale. That was reported from Nepal at a depth of 10 kilometers. And now, just a few minutes back, 6.2 on the Richter scale from Nepal at a depth of 5 kilometers. So it seems the intensity of these tremors are only increasing. That is at some level a cause for concern when it comes to the impact on the cities in the northern parts of the country.
Ayushman, anything above 5 is a cause of concern, and this is something which we should worry about a little. But we should also reiterate the tweet which has been put out by Delhi police, because this is the need of the hour. This is the message which should be spread across all the people, that the Delhi police has been urging to please come out of your buildings to a safe spot, and nobody should panic at this particular time, and they have to strictly not use any of the elevators. And if there is any of the emergency which has been caused, then they should immediately reach out there, nearest police station, or dial 112. So this is something which has been advised by the Delhi police. But if we go by the further details, this is something which has been reported across the Delhi-NCR and the city, so to say, are Sonipat, Gurugram, Noida, Ghaziabad, Delhi central side we have already reported. Lucknow is also one such city. Chandigarh is another, and at about 11 a.m. And this is the details which we are repeating for all those viewers who have now switched on the TV and now they are getting to know. So the first one was reported at about 11 a.m. The epicenter of the same was in Sonipat, Haryana, which is just 90 kilometers away, or even less than 90 kilometers away from the capital city. The Richter scale was measured at about 2.7. Then after the same, at about 2:25 p.m., the epicenter was Nepal, and Richter scale was above 4. So this is something which was reported for the second time, and the third time, and the fresh one which has been reported just few minutes back, Ayushman, which was the epicenter is said to be of Nepal only. This is the region by the Gangetic belt, which is a part of from Uttarakhand to Uttar Pradesh and so on. That is the affected area, and in the series of the same, there are other states as well, be it the Himachal or the Delhi in particular. They are also the affected one. Also, the other states have not so far reported any of those tremors, but this is the affected area. So anything above 5 is something which we have to worry about a little. So many of the people have already come out of their buildings, and this is being advised by all the concerned departments that they should reach out to an open space, any space which is a safe spot, and they should not panic. And this is strictly advised by the Delhi police in particular, that they should not use any of the elevators if need be, if there is any of the emergency need, and if they want to.
अचानक एकदम बैठे बैठे ही कुर्सी ऐसे हिलने लगी, तो मैंने सोचा शायद मेरे को कुछ तकलीफ़ ना हो, तो मैं 2 सेकंड के लिए देखा, तो कुर्सी बहुत तेज़ी से हिल रही थी. फिर मेरे सामने जो ऑफिसर थे, मैंने उनको बोला कि सर चलो भूकंप आ रहा है, तो उनको भी फील हुआ, और सामने बॉटल पड़ी थी पानी की, वो भी हिल रही टेबल पे, तो हम एकदम नीचे सबको बोलते हुए नीचे उतर आए हैं.
क्या नाम है आपका?
पंकज.
क्या फील हुआ था, क्या हुआ?
मेरे को तो ये फील हुआ कि चेयर हिल रही है. फिर वो मेरे को पता लगा कि भूकंप से ऐसे आ रहा है, अंदर से वो फील हुआ. तो मैंने फिर सभी कमरे वाले को बोला कि मैं यहाँ से चलो, कि कुछ सेकंड तक अर्थक्वेक ही आ रहा है. वो ये थे कम से कम भी 3.2 के करीब महसूस हुआ था जब मैं सीढ़ियों से नीचे उतर रहा था. फिर
The reactions coming in from the national capital, where people are, talking about their experience when the tremors hit the national capital region. Nikhil continues to be with us on the broadcast. Nikhil, also these tremors are being felt at a time when all the office buildings in the national capital region and other cities in the north are completely full. People are, ending their lunch break and coming back to the office. Many high-rise buildings are using their elevators, and this is quite concerning. And that is the pitch that has come in from the Delhi police, that please don't use elevators, step outside the high-rise buildings, because safety is a big concern, because the magnitude of this earthquake that has hit Nepal around just 9 minutes back is 6.2 of the Richter scale.
Well, and this is the third one which has been reported so far. after the first one, which was reported in Sonipat, and the fresh visuals are also coming from the Gurugram city. And Ayushman, you have rightly mentioned, since today is the day 2 of the week which has just started, and after a long weekend, because many of the people had gone to the hill stations, and after a long weekend they have come back to their offices, and now they are sharing the videos, and this is something which has been flooded across all the social media groups, all the WhatsApp groups as well. People are sending videos and photos to each other, sharing that this is the picture which is coming in from their particular office complex or the residential complex, where all the people have come down off their the property, and this is something which is currently being advised, that they have to strictly not use the elevator, because that might cause some of the problem to any of the people. So this is the reason why they should avoid using any of the elevators. But yes, anything above 5 Richter scale is something to worry about, and this one has been, the fresh one which has been reported, Ayushman, is of 6.4 Richter scale, and the epicenter of the same is Nepal. So now we need to see from the Nepal as well as to what exactly is the situation over there, because if you remember a few years back there was a damage which was reported in some part of the country, and the India as well, they sent a proper help package as well. So we should see as to what exactly the situation is from Nepal, because that is the place where the epicenter is currently being reported from the seismology department. But back to back, many of the aftershocks have been reported, and the tremors have been felt across the NCR city, be it Sonipat, Gurugram, or Noida, Ghaziabad, Delhi in particular. All the people have come out of their building, and now we need to see as to if there is any of the loss of life which has been reported. So far as we speak, there is no damage at all which has been reported. Just that there is a sense of panic. People have been asking each other, was that really a tremor which has been felt, or what was the Richter scale, where is the epicenter? So 6.4 is something which has been felt, and the epicenter of the same has been reported in Nepal. So all that region which is adjoining to the Nepal country, that is the affected area. This is the reason why the visuals have started pouring in from Uttar Pradesh, from Uttarakhand, from Chandigarh, Punjab, Himachal, and the Delhi NCR as well. We have shared many of the visuals, and many of the government complexes as well, they have also vacated their property. Many of the people have already come out, be it the office employees or the residential premises, they have also been vacated, and the advisories are back to back being issued by the people. So this is the current update which is coming in from the seismology department.
Absolutely, and we're getting visuals of the tremors being felt in Khatima in Uttarakhand, the Delhi NCR region, including Noida, as well as Lucknow, ladies and gentlemen. That is where, even Chandigarh, that is where the tremors are being felt. I'm also joined by Sharon Elizabeth on the broadcast, who's also reporting from the National Capital Region where these tremors are being felt. Sharon, over to you. What's the latest from the ground?
Well, as per the advisories that has been issued by the IMD, apart from the ministries, we have been seeing that how in number of the government buildings, all the people or officials who were inside the building have in fact come down as per the drill, as per the advisory. There have been number of mock drills that are in fact done when it comes to earthquake and fire, and accordingly, the officials and ministers also, if you see, we are bringing to you these visuals from Nirman Bhavan, where the health minister Mansukh Mandavia was in the building, and along with him, after the tremors were felt, the officials also exited the building. So now, after the tremors were felt, now everyone is back in the building. The situation is much under control when it comes to the situation in Delhi NCR concern. Of course, we have to wait for the official statement as to whether there has been any damage in regards to the earthquake that has been done in any place. But as far as Delhi NCR is concerned, no casualties have been reported, and the tremors were for about 2 minutes or so, and after that the things have now under control.
Absolutely, the tremors have subsided, and Sharon, at the same time, the need of the hour is to maintain calm when an earthquake like this takes place. We've got that advisory from the Delhi police asking people not to use elevators and step outside their buildings, and to prevent a stampede-like situation is the need of the hour. People need to exercise calm because at the end of the day, the tremors were there for around 2 minutes. Now they seem to have subsided, but people still, that air of fear still continues in many parts of the National Capital Region as well as other cities in the north.
Absolutely, and we have seen that it has been made mandatory when it comes to the private as well as the government offices, the schools and hospitals. In such places where the public are in a larger number, the government has made sure that the advisories, the mock drills are done on a yearly manner, and that is why we are seeing that the people, like you mentioned, not to take an elevator when the tremors are being felt, and to take the stairs, and to avoid any stampede sort of a situation. So we have seen how, as an obedient citizen, all of them, when they felt the tremors, we have seen visuals from Delhi NCR where all the people have come down, have exited the building in a proper way. And now, after the tremors have been felt, now the situation is under control. All of them have, in fact, gone inside. And of course, we have to wait for the official statement to know what is really the damage, if there is any, and what was the impact of the tremors that were felt in Delhi NCR.
Yeah, and let's take our viewers through what the Delhi police has put out once again. We hope you all are safe. Please come out of your buildings to a safe spot, but do not panic. Do not use elevators. For any emergency help, dial 112. And those visuals on your screen, it's not just the Aam Aadmi going to the office or staying at home, but also at the same time you see ministers also exiting the premises. We're getting a report from Ground Zero. Let's get to that.
और मैं ऊपर जाने में भी काफी डर रही हूँ अभी।
अच्छा।
अभी इसलिए नीचे वेट कर रही हूँ।
तो देखिए ऐसे लोग भी हैं जो खुले आसमान के नीचे अभी भी इंतजार कर रहे हैं और डर उनके मन में है क्योंकि भूकंप के अचानक जब झटके होते हैं और जी
Right, those visuals coming in of tremors in the National Capital Region. Also, union ministers stepping out of their building after those tremors. And as you heard from that local resident from the National Capital, saying that they're even afraid to go back inside because they feel that it's still not safe to go back inside into the buildings. And that is also a point for concern. The reporters continue to be with us. Sharon Elizabeth is with us on the broadcast. Sharon, so there is still that air of fear, as we were pointing out earlier, that people are afraid to step back into the buildings because as what we are learning is, right, so we have Nikhil back with us on the broadcast. Nikhil, as we were discussing, the intensity of these tremors only increased since 11 a.m. today, 2.7 in Sonipat. Earlier in Nepal, around 2:30, it was 4.6, then 6.2 at 2:51. And people in the National Capital Region, we just heard that lady from Delhi who was talking about her experience, they are afraid to go back into their buildings because they still feel it's not safe.
Well, clearly, and as per the details and as far as I can recall, Delhi falls in the seismic zone 4, which makes it even more prone to the earthquake. So it is also another reason for the Delhiites to worry a little. And this is something which is evident from the visuals as well, which are coming in from across the city, the capital city. People are reporting from Noida, Ghaziabad, and also sending visuals from the Gurugram city as well, where all the people have come out of their houses. But if we go by the details, and this is something which we are reiterating again and again, because Nepal continues to be the epicenter at about 225 as well at that time, and 251, both the times the epicenter continues to be Nepal. And if you remember, back in the year 2015, on the Richter scale, 7.8 was something which was felt in parts of the Nepal, and thousands of them lost their lives, and even more also were reportedly injured. So that area continues to be even more prone to the earthquake. So the affected area continues to be all the adjoining states which are in connection with that of the Nepal. So the reports are coming in from Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, and the parts of the capital city, where people are reporting that they have vacated their be it the residential buildings or the official complex as well, because as Ayushman, you are also telling all the viewers that today is the day 2 and the day 1 after the long weekend. Many of the people have reported back to their offices. So this is the reason why they are also in a sense of panic. And this is another reason why the Delhi police has come out with a tweet asking them not to panic. If there is any of the emergency, they should clearly and directly dial 112 to reach out for any of the help. And also at the same time, they should strictly avoid using any of the elevator. Instead, they should use all the staircase if there is any of the emergency situation. So far as we speak, there is no loss of life which has been reported from any part of the country. So the epicenter continues to be that of the Nepal. So we need to see as to what exactly the detail is, which is the affected area, what is the precise detail. It is something which is yet to be out from the seismology department. But these are the details currently with us, where in the visuals we can see that the union minister of health. He has also come out of the building. He was, I guess, he was somewhere debriefing the media personnel Tuesdays a day when he holds unofficial meeting with the media personnel. So this is another video where we can see many of the people have come out from their official buildings as well. And Delhi, as mentioned earlier, is falls in the seismic zone 4, which makes it even more prone to the earthquake. So clearly a reason to worry. But as we speak, there is no loss which has been reported. So
right, I'm also joined by my colleague Yash Goyal on the broadcast, who's getting us the latest from the National Capital Region, which has felt these tremors. Remember, two sets of tremors, one around 230, was felt in Nepal, around 4.6 on the Richter scale, and the tremors were felt in the National Capital Region. And now, just a few minutes back, around 250, 6.2 on the Richter scale, that is the earthquake which took place in Nepal, and the tremors were felt in the NCR region. Yash, over to you. What's the latest?
Well, absolutely, Ayushman. It was a massive earthquake. In fact, the 6.2 Richter scale, it's a huge quake which actually struck Nepal. And in fact, as per seismology department, the depth of this very quake was around 5 kilometers. And in fact, this very quake, like you rightly mentioned, was felt in India, and in fact, including in the national capitals. And in fact, now videos are also coming on social media where people are actually posting these videos where they're stepping out of their homes, because this is the first SOP which generally the people do. They step out of their homes if anything like this happens. And in fact, there were two continuous shocks. First was the 4.6 and the second one was the 6.2. So these were a massive quakes which have been reported. As my colleague Nikhil was also mentioning, that as of now, no information of damage has been reported. As of now, no loss to life has been reported. Though internet is flooded with the curiosity. In fact, people are very curious to know exactly what happened. And in fact, right now, what we can actually talking about the specifics, the epicenter of the earthquake was located at somewhere around 29.39 degrees north on the latitude, and in fact 81.23 degrees east of the longitude in Nepal. In fact, this is the information which has been given by the National Center of Seismology. And in fact, as of now, what had happened, in fact, other agencies, in fact, including the German Research Center, has also said that this was a massive earthquake. And as of now, the silver lining is that no loss to life has been reported. In fact, no structural damage has also been reported, though the epicenter was Nepal. And in fact, whenever some tremors like this are felt in Nepal, Delhi also lies in the seismic zone 4, which is prone to these sorts of quakes. And in fact, that is why people in the national capital also felt these strong tremors. Back to you.
Right. We also have a voice from Nepal. We're joined by one of our colleagues who's reporting from Nepal as well. What is the latest update coming in from the country which has been the epicenter of these quakes?
Yes, the earthquake occurred at local time 2:40, so that's near about 3 or less Indian time. And then the local authorities, seismologists are saying the intensity was magnitude 5.3, which seems like a moderate earthquake, but still powerful. It hit Bajhang district, which is located 1,200, at least 1,200 kilometers from Kathmandu. So that area is actually closer to Uttarakhand and North India, Delhi included, rather than Kathmandu. We're getting details of minor damages, road cracks, and dust, billowing out of above some smaller houses that collapsed in that area. So, but other than that, we don't know the details of actual damage. Details are still sketchy.
Right. So just to clarify, Surendra, you're saying that roads have been damaged, homes have been collapsed. Any fatalities reported from the affected areas?
Not yet. The officials are still, trying to, ascertain what went wrong, and then they are trying to assess the damage. But and there are aftershocks reportedly soon after the earthquake. So 5.3 means it normally causes minimal damage, according to Nepal's experience of facing big earthquakes.
Right, and any effect on the the power services, the water services, any effect or when it comes to the power supply to the homes? Also, any advisory has come in from the local authorities in the affected areas to the residents?
Not yet. They must be working on that right now. But from the pictures that we've just seen on social media, the earthquake hit a very remote area, mountainous village in Bajhang district, in far west Nepal, Sudur Paschim Nepal, which borders Uttarakhand actually, and it's very sparsely populated area, not densely populated like Delhi or other bigger cities in North India. So the officials, I imagine, must be assessing the damage and working on all that that needs to be done.
Right, you're saying the earthquake hit a remote area, which is a mountainous area in Nepal. Any alarm has gone into the locals over there when it comes to potential landslides and other, damage that could take place in that seismically prone area?
Not yet. I mean, the details are still sketchy because it happened in a very remote area. So we are still not in touch with the local authorities, but from the media reports that have just poured in from there, the earthquake was felt. It was 5.3 magnitude, and officials are assessing the damage. And social media photos are showing cracked roads and also some dust, flying off possibly a collapsed house or something. So yeah. That's it for now.
Right, so that is the latest that's coming in from Nepal. Surendra Fayal, thank you for joining us on CNN News 18. So that is the latest that's coming in. Cracked roads, collapsed houses in Nepal, but the tremors being felt in the national capital region. And we heard from the local residents in Delhi, they're still afraid to go back inside because they fear that it's still not safe to go back inside. But that is the latest that's coming in from the national capital region, where the Delhi police has said, do not panic, do not use elevators, and try to stay outside the buildings in a safe area. We'll continue to track all the developments which are coming in. For now, a quick break. More news and updates on the other side.
Feels like home. Diplomats as the part of India's larger conspiracy or larger network that is kind of doing extrajudicial things to these Khalistani terrorists. In fact, the Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy's name was also put on a social media poster and he was blamed for the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar earlier this year in the month of June in one of the Gurdwara in Surrey in Canada. And these are the tactics that we have also seen happening in Australia, where the High Commissioners were threatened and intimidated by these Khalistani terrorists. So clearly India has raised the issue with certain authorities, but we'll have to see how much of these countries are actually going to work on the ground to stop and check these Khalistani agents from going ahead with this their terror and threat activities against Indian diplomats, because the issue is now very flared up with Canada in the background. UK authorities also needs to keep a check on these Khalistani violent agents or the bilateral relationship will clearly have a repercussion, as we have seen a huge diplomatic face-off that is already going on between India and Canada, and Indian government is not taking the entire allegation or entire blame game or diplomatic game lying down, and that could very well be the case with other countries as well if these countries or these elements in those countries are not kept under check by the authorities or the administration in those countries. As the India-Canada bilateral relationship is very much on the downhill because of the Khalistani issue, when Canadian side has alleged that Indian agencies' role were behind killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a dreaded Khalistani terrorist whom Canada thinks that he was a political activist. Now another front in Khalistani terrorism has opened in London as well, when Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy was stopped from entering a Gurudwara in Glasgow. He was there to take part in several cultural activities, and he did meet some of the eminent personalities there also. And one of the engagement that he had was to go to the Gurudwara in Glasgow, where he was supposed to take part in the langar, and he was invited there by the Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee there. But somehow 2-3 people from the Khalistani sympathizer group, they got to know that Indian High Commissioner is reaching there, and they rushed there. They tried to disrupt the event inside the Gurudwara also, and then they rushed out at the car when it was parking in front of the Gurudwara, and they asked the High Commissioner to stop and go back. We could see in those videos when the driver was about to open the door for the High Commissioner, but because of the threat and intimidation by these Khalistani goons, he gets back to his seat and turns around and goes back. Meanwhile, we also see that Vikram Doraiswamy, the High Commissioner, tries to lock the car from his side and stop them from opening the car door. It was quite a threatening situation. India raised the issue with the British authorities and the Foreign Office of UK. What happened next was that another Khalistani protest that was planned in front of the Indian High Commissioner in London. But this time, the British officials were pretty alert, and there was some security measures that was also implied there. A barricade was put on the outer perimeter of Indian High Commissioner building in London, and the High Commissioner's building in London doesn't have a huge or long campus that will stop any passerby from entering or kind of attacking the building. So it was a barricade on the pavement that was put there, and the Khalistani protesters were kept on across the street. So on the other side, they kept on chanting and Indian slogans and threat and intimidation tactics for the Indian diplomats. But that is something that brings to the fore the issue of entire Khalistani nexus, which is kind of being allowed to operate in certain countries like Canada, UK, US and Australia. These are 4 countries where issue of Khalistani terrorism has been very vocal and kind of threatening for Indian diplomats. In the recent past, India has raised the issue with all of these countries, while Canadian authorities, for obviously a reason, domestic political reason, they were reluctant in acting against these terrorists. We have seen some assurances coming from Australian government, US also saying that they will look into the issues of Khalistani terrorists and they do not support any violent group in the name of freedom of speech and expression. London authorities also has given assurances to the Indian government, especially ever since earlier this year when some of the Khalistani members tried to breach into the building of London High Commission. One of them also pulled down the Indian Tiranga and tried to disrespect it. In the scuffle, one of the diplomat was injured as well. So it became quite of a very flared up situation, and UK authorities did realize the fact that there is a clear threat and violence and intimidation from these Khalistani terrorists, and they are no more just a social or political activists trying to raise their voice for some cause. They are real violent extremist agents, and there has been some sort of security that has been extended to the Indian diplomat and Indian communities also there. But despite all these, we continue to see a rise in threat on social media. Various platforms of social media are also trying to propagate Indian diplomats as the part of India's larger conspiracy or larger network that is kind of doing extrajudicial things to these Khalistani terrorists. In fact, the Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy's name was also put on a social media poster, and he was blamed for the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar earlier this year in the month of June in one of the Gurdwara in Surrey in Canada. And these are the tactics that we have also seen happening in Australia, where the High Commissioners were threatened and intimidated by these Khalistani terrorists. So clearly India has raised the issue with certain authorities, but we'll have to see how much of these countries are actually going to work on the ground to stop and check these Khalistani agents from going ahead with this terror and threat activities against Indian diplomats, because the issue is now very flared up with Canada in the background. UK authorities also needs to keep a check on these Khalistani violent agents, or the bilateral relationship will clearly have a repercussion, as we have seen a huge diplomatic face-off that is already going on between India and Canada, and Indian government is...
Welcome back, and big breaking news coming in. This is what top government sources are telling CNN News 18 amid the diplomatic showdown between India and Canada. Now, Indian government sources have told CNN News 18 that they will take hard decisions on overseas citizenship of India, on the OCI card holders, when it comes to the diplomatic showdown between India and Canada. Now, top government sources have told CNN News 18 that after the cancellation of visas in Canada, India will take more strong decisions. Government will soon announce OCI cancellations for select individuals. The government is seriously thinking to cancel OCI cards for some countries or some individuals on a case-to-case basis. The Indian government is of the firm view that backing Khalistan and earning from agriculture properties in India, which is the money trail that top intel sources have told CNN News 18, this will not go on simultaneously, and this will be a crackdown which will take center stage when it comes to the centre's efforts to dismantle the entire Khalistani nexus. Now, the government is disappointed after some students protested in front of missions recently after going on a study visa to Canada. So, looking at these developments, top government sources have told CNN News 18 that they will target the OCI status of several citizens who are living in Canada who are indulging in these anti-India activities. I'm joined by my colleague Anand Narasimhan to decode this plan of action of the Indian government. Anand, over to you.
Well, good afternoon to all our viewers, and the government is doubling down on this. They are not going to dial down, but they're actually going to up the ante and increase the diplomatic offensive against nations that are harboring those elements which are plotting perhaps not just the secession of Bharat, but also extremist elements, gangsters who are also running their crime networks and using Bharat as their destination for drugs, and also as a market or as an area for drug trafficking and human trafficking. So India is very, very clear that we are not going to take this lying down. Top government sources are confirming to us here at CNN News 18 via our group editor security Manoj Kumar Gupta that it's not going to stop at just restoring parity or maintaining a parity in terms of the consulate size. That was actually hinted on by the MEA spokesperson Arindam Bagchi more than about a week ago. But and that's why perhaps the message that's been sent across to the Canadians that they must recall nearly 40 of their diplomats who are operating from their consulate here in India. But the next step is going to be a sterner message to those people who are actually going on visas from here for studying abroad but are indulging in nefarious activities or mixing with these elements, plus those people who are holding OCI cards. So if the government can open its doors for anybody and everybody from the Indian diaspora abroad who still want to remain connected with Bharat in a positive manner, they are not going to be impacted. But those elements who are engaging in these kind of activities which are extremist, secessionists, bordering on terrorism, and also running crime networks and networks of operating with a nefarious agenda, these individuals will be highlighted. These individuals and their OCI eligibility will be seriously considered. In fact, there is also a further upping that it would not be limited to only certain individuals. The entire group, the entire Indian diaspora, or those who are OCI card holders will also suffer if this continues and if there is no cooperation from nations who are actually harboring such elements and to whom credible evidence, letter rogatories, extradition requests have been provided. And there has been no action thereafter. Clearly a message being sent out that Bharat will no longer take it lying down. If nations are not going to maintain diplomatic niceties, neither does Bharat have to do it, and especially when it comes to a threat to its sovereignty and using its own people and using its territory for an anti-India agenda. Clear message to all students: if you are going on a student visa there, you are going there to study, use that time for furthering your career prospects rather than being seen outside consulates and outside these areas with these extremist elements. And if that is your agenda, then you will be recalled or your visa will be rejected. That message also being sent out very sternly, Ayushman.
Right, so a zero tolerance approach when it comes to cracking down on the Khalistan network. I'm also joined by Achal Malhotra, former diplomat, on the broadcast. Mr. Malhotra, when it comes to these decisions that are coming in from top government sources, this is the need of the hour when it comes to tackling India's security situation when it comes to the K-Nexus operating from Canada.
Oh, definitely. You know, the issue that has engaged our attention, the media attention and everybody's attention within India, outside India, even the big countries are also concerned about it, is very, very serious issue. It's not only just any simple anti-India expression of sentiment on a foreign soil. It goes far beyond. It's a question of India's territorial integrity. It's a question related to drugs and terror financing and so many other things. Now, in a situation like this, when something like that happens on a foreign soil, what do? You normally seek the help and assistance of the local government, the host government, and if it is a friendly government, then all the more better. If it's not, it's a different issue. But what happens what do you do when the kind of support that you expect from the host government is not forthcoming? On the contrary, there are no signs that there's no political will in that country to handle a situation like this. They seem themselves to be, being either blackmailed or being held hostage by these elements. I mean, there's a limit to political ambitions and the compulsions of coalition and all other arguments which are being given. 8 lakh, 6 out of which how many are voters and how many of them are really sympathizers of Khalistan? I mean, this is all, it doesn't appeal to the reason. And then you are coming out and making all sorts of, baseless allegations about India's involvement in the killing of, the activists. So I think the government, when support doesn't come from the host government, we have to do whatever best we can do, whatever is in our hands. So we have to give signals, we have to take measures, we have to downsize the diplomatic presence, give a clear message to the host government, in this case Canada, that the rest of the relationship will also suffer. It's serious because there are many serious interests involved on both sides, whether it's in our requirement of import of pulses, lentils, and few other things, are their requirement, in terms of the revenue that we generate in that country. But national security is above all these things.
Absolutely.
And then we have to take action against our own people. I mean, they just can't have best of the both worlds. This OCI card is such a facility that we have, a tremendous facility which we have given to the people of Indian origin. It would be a pity that if we withdraw this facility en bloc for everybody, we will have to be selective. We will have to really see who are up to mischief making and selectively cancel. This is our right. We have given them. It's not their right to have it. It's our decision to give them. And it's our prerogative to withdraw it.
Absolutely.
You can't, हमारी थाली में खा के हमारी थाली में छेद करना, that's not allowed.
Absolutely, and the government sources have told CNN News 18 that it will be on a case-by-case basis. Anand, this point where students are taking a visa to Canada and then supporting the K nexus over there, we've seen multiple cases where people go on a student visa to countries like Canada and then completely disappear. This kind of funneling into the entire K infrastructure, this is a huge security crisis when it comes to tackling the K nexus and its tentacles within India as well.
But these students are part of, and they go via these immigration agents and agencies. A lot of these elements and extremists have a finger in this immigration's business pie. And that's why they are coordinates, and some of these students become target of these instances. In fact, there are, subject to confirmation, there are actually claims that are being made that some of these students and some of these people who go via these immigration agents and these people are put under duress and forced to appear for this with the threat that their visa will not be rejected or their further immigration and stay in Canada will become difficult if they do not cooperate. So how many of these people are doing it of their own volition, are doing it under some duress, is a matter of investigation and confirmation. But one of these aspects that stands out is that the Canadian government and Justin Trudeau has stood up not for a Canadian citizen but for a proscribed terrorist by India. They have made all this song and dance about a Hardeep Nijjar, who's a wanted man with a red corner notice against him since November 2014. And despite repeated extradition requests and letter rogatories provided to him, the Canadian government is standing there. Hardeep Nijjar's son is on record confirming that the Canadian intelligence service was in touch with him 6 days before he died, and they were scheduled to meet him again within 2 days of his death. But the fact of the matter is, if there is open Canadian government support to a proscribed terrorist, somebody who was proscribed a terrorist by the Indian government in 2020, then we have a serious concern. And if there are elements within the Canadian political system who are openly hobnobbing with these elements and are seen at institutions, religious or otherwise, which are being managed by these extremist elements, then we have a serious concern and we are not going to take it lying down. The other aspect is that this OCI card is a further, not just an escalation, but a further stick to the entire Indian diaspora that if you remain and if you entertain these extremist elements, then you are not going to get away with it. It will start with a case-by-case basis and it will move to an en bloc, because if you are not going to stand up for Bharat as an OCI card holder on foreign land, and if you are not going to raise your voice against these elements, if 795,000 are not raising their voice and asking this 5,000 to totally sideline or to be acted upon against by the Canadian authorities, then we have a serious concern.
Absolutely.
And that will be done with other nations also, where these K agendas, both the K2 agendas are being used by nations that are inimical, entities that are inimical to Bharat, and with people who are holding OCI cards. We will take back that privilege, as Ambassador Malhotra said.
Absolutely, and India has that diplomatic card to play, because even when it comes to Nijar's death, there are more questions than answers, and Canada has a lot to answer for when it comes to the patronage given to the K nexus. Thank you, Anand and Achal Malhotra, for joining us on the broadcast and decoding India's next plan of action when it comes to the diplomatic showdown with Canada. We're going to take a quick break. More news and updates on the other side.
Pradhanamantri taking the entire allegation or entire blame game or diplomatic game lying down, and that could very well be the case with other countries as well, if these countries or these elements in those countries are not kept under check by the authorities or the administration in those countries. As the India-Canada bilateral relationship is very much on the downhill because of the Khalistani issue, when Canadian side has alleged that Indian agencies' role were behind killing of Hardeep Singh Nijar, a dreaded Khalistani terrorist whom Canada thinks that he was a political activist. Now another front in Khalistani terrorism has opened in London as well, when Indian High Commissioner Vikram Swami was stopped from entering a Gurudwara in Glasgow. He was there to take part in several cultural activities, and he did meet some of the eminent personalities there also. And one of the engagement that he had was to go to the Gurudwara in Glasgow, where he was supposed to take part in the langar, and he was invited there by the Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee there. But somehow 2-3 people from the Khalistani sympathizer group, they got to know that Indian High Commissioner is reaching there, and they rushed there. They tried to disrupt the event inside the Gurudwara also, and then they rushed out at the car when it was parking in front of the Gurudwara, and they asked the High Commissioner to stop and go back. We could see in those videos when the driver was about to open the door for the High Commissioner, but because of the threat and intimidation by these Khalistani goons, he gets back to his seat and turns around and goes back. Meanwhile, we also see that Vikram Swami, the High Commissioner, tries to lock the car from his side and stop them from opening the car door. It was quite a threatening situation. India raised the issue with the British authorities and the Foreign Office of UK. What happened next was that another Khalistani protest that was planned in front of the Indian High Commissioner in London. But this time, the British officials were pretty alert, and there was some security measures that was also implied there. A barricade was put on the outer perimeter of Indian High Commissioner building in London, and the High Commissioner's building in London doesn't have a huge or long campus that will stop any passerby from entering or kind of attacking the building. So it was a barricade on the pavement that was put there, and the Khalistani protesters were kept on across the street. So on the other side, they kept on chanting and Indian slogans, guarantee threat and intimidation tactics for the Indian diplomats. But that is something that brings to the fore the issue of entire Khalistani nexus, which is kind of being allowed to operate in certain countries like Canada, UK, US and Australia. These are 4 countries where issue of Khalistani terrorism has been very vocal and kind of threatening for Indian diplomats. In the recent past, India has raised the issue with all of these countries, while Canadian authorities, for obviously a reason, domestic political reason, they were reluctant in acting against these terrorists. We have seen some assurances coming from Australian government, US also saying that they will look into the issues of Khalistani terrorists, and they do not support any violent group in the name of freedom of speech and expression. London authorities also has given assurances to the Indian government, especially ever since earlier this year, when some of the Khalistani members tried to breach into the building of London High Commission, one of them also pulled down the Indian Tiranga and tried to disrespect it. In the scuffle, one of the diplomat was injured as well. So it became quite a very flared up situation, and UK authorities did realize the fact that there is a clear threat and violence and intimidation from these Khalistani terrorists, and they are no more just a social or political activists trying to raise their voice for some cause. They are real violent extremist agents, and there has been some sort of security that has been extended to the Indian diplomat and Indian communities also there. But despite all these, we continue to see a rise in threat on social media. Various platforms of social media are also trying to propagate Indian diplomats as the part of India's larger conspiracy or larger network that is kind of doing extrajudicial things to these Khalistani terrorists. In fact, the Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy's name was also put on a social media poster, and he was blamed for the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar earlier this year in the month of June in one of the Gurdwara in Surrey in Canada. And these are the tactics that we have also seen happening in Australia, where the High Commissioners were threatened and intimidated by these Khalistani terrorists. So clearly India has raised the issue with certain authorities, but we'll have to see how much of these countries are actually going to work on the ground to stop and check these Khalistani agents from going ahead with this their terror and threat activities against Indian diplomats, because the issue is now very flared up with Canada in the background. UK authorities also needs to keep a check on these Khalistani violent agents, or the bilateral relationship will clearly have a repercussion, as we have seen a huge diplomatic face-off that is already going on between India and Canada, and Indian government is not taking the entire allegation or entire blame game or diplomatic game lying down, and that could very well be the case with other countries as well, if these countries or these elements in those countries are not kept under check by the authorities or the administration in those countries. As India-Canada bilateral relationship is very much on the downhill because of the Khalistani issue, when Canadian side has alleged that Indian agencies' role were behind killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a dreaded Khalistani terrorist whom Canada thinks that he was a political activist. Now another front in Khalistani terrorism has opened in London as well, when Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy was stopped from entering a Gurudwara in Glasgow. He was there to take part in several cultural activities, and he did meet some.
Welcome back, and big breaking news coming in. This is a huge development in the Liquorgate probe, ladies and gentlemen, with YSRCP MP Manguta Reddy's son Raghav Manguta and Manish Sisodia's close aide Dinesh Arora have turned approvers in the money laundering case pertaining to the excise policy scam. Now, Delhi's Rouse Avenue Court allowed the application filed by them seeking permission to turn approver in the case. Arora had also turned approver in the CBI case, where his statements had played a crucial role in the arrest of former Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia. That's the big piece of breaking news that's coming in, where, as you can see, there is more trouble for Manish Sisodia, where Dinesh Arora and YSRCP MP Manguta Reddy's son have turned approvers in the case. Now, the Delhi court has allowed their application that was filed by them to seek permission to turn approver in the case. That's the big piece of breaking news that's coming in, where more trouble is mounting for Manish Sisodia, where two key figures have now turned approver in the case. I'm joined by my colleague Ananya Bhatnagar, who's getting us this piece of breaking news. Ananya, give us the details.
Well, definitely, Ayushman, this is a very, very big development that is taking place in the Liquorgate scandal. When we talk about the excise policy scam, in which Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia too is inside custody in the jail in Tihar, and now two more approvers have now come to the court, has allowed YSRCP MP Manguta Reddy's son Raghav Manguta and in fact Dinesh Arora to turn approver in the money laundering case. Now, why is this very, very significant? Is that with regards to Raghav Manguta, what is very, very clear is that when Raghav Manguta had entered into the Delhi business, the Delhi liquor business by the name of Enrica Enterprises, he had got licenses. But the same was only possible after his father, Mr. Manguta Reddy, had met Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. And in fact, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal had welcomed the entry of Manguta Reddy in fact, the Delhi liquor business is what the charge sheet has to say against Manguta Reddy. So this might be troublesome for Arvind Kejriwal. There might be some secrets that would be spurged out when, he turns out an approver and would be giving out information to the investigation agency. Now, when it comes to Dinesh Arora, he was already an approver in the CBI case. His statements had led to the arrest of, in fact, Manish Sisodia, and very, very crucial arrest in this particular case. His statements were of a large value, in fact, to prosecute people like Manish Sisodia, like Amit Arora and others. In fact, he was the one who had divulged that Manish Sisodia was the one who had in fact was the helm of he was at the helm of this particular policy, and in fact Dinesh Arora owns very, very key restaurants in the national capital by the name of Courtyard, Unplugged Courtyard, and in fact there were people like Sanjay Singh who were in his contact, and is said to be a very, very close aide of Manish Sisodia as well. So definitely troubles mounting for the Aam Aadmi Party, especially for Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, since Manguta S. Reddy's son, Raghav Manguta, and in fact Dinesh Arora have now turned approver in the money laundering case pertaining to the excise policy scam. Ayushman.
Right. Thank you, Ananya, for getting us the latest when it comes to the Liquorgate probe. We'll continue to track all the developments which are coming in, but that's all from me. My colleague Ridhima Bhatnagar takes you forward with the latest news and updates.
Well, thanks a lot for that, Ayushman. Good evening to all our viewers. Thanks a lot for staying with us here at CNN News 18. I'm Ridhima Bhatnagar. We'll be getting you all the top stories over the next 60 minutes. Let's begin with the big story that we've been keeping a very close eye on. This is the move as far as the special cell of the Delhi police is concerned, who is still conducting raids at various locations in the Delhi-NCR region and even outside, linked to media outlet NewsClick. The raids are being carried out at the offices of the media outlet, even its employees' residences in the Delhi-NCR region. The police has also seized some electronic devices. These include phones and laptops as well. NewsClick founder is also under the scanner, was also questioned by the Delhi Police Special Cell earlier in the day. In fact, CPIM General Secretary Sitaram Yechury's residence was also raided, as some NewsClick employees in fact stayed there at the premises. A smartphone, 2 external hard drives and 1 laptop have been seized from his residence. Sources have also told us here at CNN News 18 that the ongoing raids are linked to NewsClick are based on a case which had been registered in the month of August, on the 17th of August, under the UAPA and other sections of the Indian Penal Code. Meanwhile, multiple reactions coming in from the opposition. The opposition bloc, the INDIA Alliance, has now condemned these raids and called it a crackdown on free speech. We're getting some breaking developments now coming in. This is in fact a reaction that is coming in from the Editors Guild of India. They have now gone on to express their concern over the arrest of these journalists. They've in fact issued a statement, and it says, "We are deeply concerned about the raids at the residences of senior journalists and the subsequent detention of many of those journalists as well. We urge the state to follow due process and not to make draconian criminal laws as tools for press intimidation." That's the word that's coming in from the Editors Guild of India. They've gone on to condemn the raids that have happened as far as this move by the Delhi Special Cell is concerned, whereas we pointed out there were multiple raids that have happened at residences of journalists and employees related to the media organization NewsClick. As we pointed out earlier, you've had electronic devices that in fact have been seized as well, laptops and phones as well. What will be important to note is what really comes out as far as what is found on those electronic devices. But first, let's bring in our colleague Anvit Sharvastava, who is joining us on the broadcast. Anvit, as we've been pointing out, before we get into where the investigation currently stands, is there any evidence that really has been picked up from these electronic devices? Look at the reactions that are coming in. The Editors Guild of India now expressing their concern. They're also saying that this is a crackdown on free speech as far as journalists or media in the country is concerned.
Yeah, see, absolutely, and we are at the special cells office in Lodi Road, and at least 5 to 6 journalists had been brought here early in the morning, along with the gadgets, cell phones, hard disk, and laptop that was seized from them. One major development is that Anindo Chakrabarti, one of the persons who was detained and who had been summoned to join the investigation, he has just walked out of this premises. So probably the special cell is getting over with the questioning that had been going on for the past 5 to 6 hours, because one of the persons who also we know was inside, he has been let off and he just walked out of this premises. So probably in a short while many more might also, as depends upon the investigation that is going on and the questioning that the police have managed to complete, that is going on. Probably others also will similarly be let off, or if the police wants to transform this detention into arrest, that will also come forward if the police comes on to share something else. But see, as far as this case is concerned, and as far as the the allegations against these people are concerned, an FIR has been registered under UAPA sections for criminal enmity other than UAPA, and also for inciting enmity between groups. Now the police are saying that the sections under UAPA that have been slapped, what we have got from the sources, are sections 16, 17, 18 and 22. Now three important sections are 16, 17 and 18, which say that anyone who performs any terrorist act, that has been invoked. Second one is raising funds to commit a terrorist act, and the third one that is important is conspiracy to conspire or attempt a terrorist act. So this is what what the allegations are, and what is being looked into by the agencies, particularly Special Cell, because that is the anti-terror organization unit of Delhi Police. Previously, if we talk about the background of this case, meanwhile, you can have the visuals, because some people are coming out and the police have heavily barricaded this entire road. But see, if you talk about the background of this case, it was EOW, the Economic Offences Wing of Delhi Police, that had first started investigation in this entire case, and they had also been probing the money trail. Then based on that case, the ED came into and they started probing under the PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and when ED found there are certain elements in the investigation which are beyond the domain of PMLA, then that information was shared with IT department and Delhi Police, and therefore IT department have also previously raided premises related to this news firm NewsClick, and then today anti-terror unit of Delhi Police Special Cell has also gotten into the picture, and previously on August 17 they had registered a case under UAPA. Subsequent to that case, raids were made today, and all the persons who were detained and who were summoned to join the investigation, they have been brought to this office and they are being questioned. Police wants to establish the money trail, because that is the entire allegation is all about. If we go further, behind the background of this entire case, one interesting name that comes forward is of Neville Roy Singham. He is said to be a businessman and a millionaire from US who also runs an IT consultancy, and it is said that he is the person who funds a global network of which
so, as Anvit is pointing out, there are multiple agencies that are currently looking into as far as the investigation is concerned. It all started with the EOW, or the Economic Offences Wing, then it moved to the ED, and now you have the Delhi Police Special Cell that are currently looking into at what's really at the heart as far as funding of this media organization is concerned. Anvit, I'll just request you to stay on with us. We want to bring in Yash also in the conversation. Now, Yash, in fact, has been tracking all the political reactions. Remember, one of the raids also happened at CPIM Sitaram Yechuri's residence, but the raids were not to target the politician, but in fact one of the employees as far as the media organization NewsClick is concerned. Now the criticism, Yash, that's coming in from the opposition is that this is the reality of the freedom of press or media today in the country, where journalists are being raided and they don't even know what the context is. But this is a sense of hypocrisy that stands exposed as well, because even if you look at what happened under the UPA era, whether you go back to the emergency time or even as early as 2012, you had cartoonists that had been jailed for sedition and various other charges. So what is the basis of the criticism as far as the opposition is concerned?
Well, Ridhima, the opposition is trailing guns at the centre, stating the very same fact that they do every time. They are saying that this is the vendetta which is happening right ahead of the election, when someone tries to actually bring out certain facts, or they, quote unquote, when somebody tries to bring out truth, this is what they do, be it the opposition or with the media. In fact, from various political corners, we have seen voices condemning this very action by the Special Cell of the Delhi Police. In fact, we also spoke exclusively to Sitaram Yechuri, the General Secretary of CPIM, who categorically said that this is just muzzling of the voices of the journalists in the country, and in fact not letting them speak when they try to speak something against the ruling dispensation. And in fact, one of the startling revelations Mr. Yechuri made was that when the police entered the premises of Mr. Yechuri, they entered the premises on the false pretext, and then the evidences were gathered from the very person who works with the NewsClick as the graphic designer. His name is said to be Sumit, and in fact we were able to actually access that very Caesar note where it mentioned that certain evidences have been actually gathered from this very place where I'm standing, and those were actually now being looked at by the special cell of the Delhi police. In fact, our colleague Anvit also rightly mentioned that how this entire trail began first from the EOW, and in fact then to ED, and now to the special cell. EOW case was related to the FDI, and in fact now special cell is looking into something very serious because UAPA is involved in it. Back to you.
Yash, we'll just request you to stay on with us. I want to go back to Anvit for another clarification. Anvit, another criticism that came in even from some of the journalists whose residences in fact were raided just before their electronic devices in fact were seized. They did manage to put out some tweets on the platform X, and they said, we just don't know why we are coming under the scanner. Are we now picking up clarity in terms of why these journalists whose residences have been raided are people of interest as far as the investigation is concerned?
See, the money trail is the gist of this entire investigation that is being done. It is in the center of this entire controversy, and that is what the police have been, and in fact all the agencies, not just Delhi police, the ED, IT and EOW, all had been wanting to establish what is the money trail, because the allegations since the beginning have been of money laundering, have been of disappropriation of assets, and have been of accepting money from sources that could be dubious with malified intentions. So police are trying to establish money trail. Only electronic evidences and digital evidences will stand any merit in the court, and that is why these gadgets, the police also are telling us that the laptops, the hard disk and the cell phones have been seized, because police wants to go through all the transactions that have happened between this period, whenever the allegations are between 2018 and 21, that the NewsClick had received the certain sum of money from abroad from certain sources, including the one from from Neville Roy Singham, his firm. So police are investigating all these angles, and one crucial link is that police want to establish that whether whatever global network was being funded by this man, NewsClick is being said to be a part of it, and that is how NewsClick received this fund. Some of this amount had also gone to Gautam Navraka, who is an accused in Bhima Goregaon case. So that link is also to be established, and that is why the police have seized all those documents. Police are saying once these documents or these data is extracted from these devices, they will be sealed. They'll further be taken, if at all arrests are made, be produced in front of magistrate, and then further formalities will be done. But so far, official status is no arrest has been made. One person who was also being questioned, he has been let off, and we are expecting that in short while either the questioning will get over, or we'll get some update from the police that whether or not they're converting these decisions into the arrest.
So as Anvit is pointing out, one of the journalists who in fact was being questioned has just been let off a short while ago. We're hoping the others to come out as well, and also hoping to get some clarity if the police has managed to find some evidence on these electronic devices that in fact have been seized. Yash and Anvit, keep a close eye on all those developments for us. We'll have to leave that conversation there. Let's take a look at some other reactions coming in.
A raid was conducted here. Certain evidences were seized by the Delhi police. What all you can tell? Yes, you have given a clarification, but still, the person who was living here was a NewsClick employee and was related to one of your staff members here, sir.
That's right. One of my staff members lives with me here. His son works for the NewsClick. So they were obviously doing some investigation. We don't know what is the investigation for. So they have apparently, along with a lot of others from the news that has come across the city, they have taken their laptops and their cell phones. That's what they've done here.
Okay. Sir, we have also accessed a Caesar note from your residence where a couple of hard disk, one mobile phone and some digital evidences have been gathered. So in any sense, you were aware about something like this would happen at your residence also? Any sort of notice was given before the police came to your residence?
No notice at all, no prior information at all. They just landed up in the morning asking a different question before they actually came to the house of the person who's staying here, who lives here. And they asked some something very innocuous, saying that he's taken a loan and we want to inquire about that. But it finally turned out when they came inside that this is what they were looking for.
So they entered on a false pretext to your residence. Were you there, sir, when this question
No, I
happened?
wasn't here at that time.
देखिए, मुझे जस्टिफाई करने की जरूरत नहीं है। अगर किसी ने गलत किया है तो उसके ऊपर जांच एजेंसियां काम करती हैं। देखिए, मुझे जस्टिफाई करने की जरूरत नहीं है। अगर किसी ने गलत किया है तो उसके ऊपर जांच एजेंसियां काम करती हैं।
Staying with the same space, let's break down some other key details as well in terms of what we are picking up by the means of government sources in terms of why these raids are happening, what is at the heart of the investigation. So this is what government sources are telling us here at CNN News 18, that NewsClick funding by China is against the sovereignty of our country. As our colleague Anbit was pointing out, that this investigation is not new. It in fact started by the EOW, the Economic Offences Wing. It went on to the Enforcement Directorate, and now you have the Delhi Police Special Cell that in fact has stepped in. What sources are also telling us is that the funding requires proper investigation. Multiple loopholes have been found. Much question marks have also been laid as to where this money is coming from, and all of that needs a thorough investigation. Government sources also telling us routing of fund points to electronic proof. We'll have to get more details in terms of what is the evidence that has been found post today's raids as well. Government sources also telling us that we do understand that funds have been transferred electronically, so we do want to look into the proper channels and the receivers as well. Government sources also telling us that payouts have been made to spread Chinese propaganda, and that is why that entire nexus and link needs to have a deeper investigation. Further sources also telling us and referring to that New York Times report that we in fact had put out on CNN News 18 a couple of weeks ago, that NYT had reported about NewsClick funding as well, and thus we do feel there is a lot that doesn't add up here, and that needs deeper investigation. Some other reactions also now coming in.
Currently the BJP government, they don't like to listen to the voice of the opposition. It's not for the first time that it is taking place with the media. You must recall that the subsidy of PTI was stopped. Even you must recall, in Parliament, the Rajya Sabha TV and Lok Sabha TV have been censored in such a way that in those TVs you can only find the chairman, speaker and the treasury bench, and the opposition's voice is not being shown in these TVs. It proves BJP is scared of real news, and BJP say simply like run away from the real facts.
चाइना से पैसा आकर यहाँ पर चाइना का एजेंडा चलाए अगर कोई पोर्टल या कोई एजेंसी, तो वो तो अलाउड नहीं हो सकती। और ये मामला पहले भी हुआ, पहले भी इनके खिलाफ जांच चल रही थी सब लोगों के खिलाफ, और अब पुख्ता सबूत है कि पैसा आ रहा है चाइना से, अमेरिका से, फिर घूमकर फिर यहाँ आकर, और उस पैसे का उपयोग किया जा रहा है चाइना को यहाँ पर प्रमोट करने के लिए। तो वो तो, और भारत को बदनाम करने के लिए भी, मतलब सिर्फ आप चाइना को प्रमोट करते अलग बात है, परंतु भारत को भी बदनाम कर रहे हैं। तो ये तो अलाउड नहीं कर सकते, और इसलिए उन सब लोगों के खिलाफ कार्रवाई होगी जो इस प्रकार से विदेशी पैसा लेकर भारत को बदनाम करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
जो लोग आपसे सवाल पूछें, जो आपकी भजन मंडली में शामिल होने से इनकार करते हैं, आप उनके साथ, ये आपका स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर हो गया। एक फासिस्ट स्टेट की जितनी उसके अवयव होते हैं सब आप में विद्यमान है। क्या नजीर पेश कर रहे हैं आप? अगर मैं आपातकाल के उस छोटे से दौर को छोड़ दूं, आज तक आजाद हिंदुस्तान में किसी भी सरकार ने अपनी आलोचना करने वालों के प्रति इस प्रकार की दुर्भावनापूर्ण वेंडेटा की कार्रवाई नहीं की है। आज की ये कार्रवाई इतिहास में दर्ज होगी और प्रतिकार सड़कों पे होगा।
जिस तरीके से मीडिया की अभिव्यक्ति पर, मीडिया की स्वतंत्रता पर सिर्फ अंकुश नहीं लगाया जा रहा है, कई रूपों में लगाया जा रहा है। आर्थिक रूप से, सामाजिक रूप से, और अब तो बीभत्स स्वरूप आ गया कि जो इसके बाद भी बोलेगा हम नौकरी से उसे उसके चैनल से निकलवा देंगे। बाहर निकल के अगर वो स्वतंत्र रूप से बोलेगा तो फिर हम उसको गिरफ्तार करेंगे, और इस तरह गिरफ्तार करेंगे कि जल्दी जमानत भी ना हो सके। ये आने वाले चुनाव के पहले भारतीय जनता पार्टी सरकार सारे पत्रकारों को संदेश दे रही है। तो हम पत्रकारिता के साथ खड़े हैं, पत्रकारों के साथ खड़े हैं और इस कदम की कठोरतम शब्दों में निंदा करते हैं।
I strongly condemn the way they are handling the journalists who are questioning the government. This is nothing new. After 2014, the government is harassing all the people who are questioning the government.
यदि सचमुच फंडिंग को लेकर कोई फाइनेंशियल इरेगुलरिटीज हुई है तब भी उनको आतंकवादी की तरह पेश करना, उस प्रकार का उनका प्रोजेक्शन और परसेप्शन बनाना, ये बहुत ही खतरनाक साइन है। उर्मिलेश जी से लेकर अभिसार से लेकर जिन पत्रकारों को अब तक डिटेन किया गया है वो सारे लोग हमारी पार्टी के खिलाफ भी लिखते आए हैं और उनका ये कर्तव्य है कि किसी भी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी की सरकार हो उनकी नीतियों के खिलाफ वो आवाज बुलंद करे। तो इस प्रकार से पत्रकारों पर हमला करना तो सीधा लोकतंत्र के ऊपर प्रहार करने के बराबर है। यदि फाइनेंशियल इरेगुलरिटी का मामला है, यदि है तब भी, तो उसकी दूसरे तरीके से जांच होनी चाहिए। यूएपीए लगाना मतलब कि सबको डराना धमकाना, ये टैक्टिक्स तो नहीं चलेगी।
We're now shifting our focus to some other breaking developments coming in, and this is as far as the caste survey that has happened in Bihar. The politics only continues to erupt, and this is an important reaction that's coming in. Till now, the voices that were coming in from the INDA alliance, the opposition bloc, were supporting the move of the Bihar government. But now, there is a reaction that's coming in from the Congress, where you in fact have Congress's Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who in fact has opposed this entire move. He's taken to social media, the platform X, and this is what he's gone on to say. I'm going to quote, "Equality of opportunity is never the same as equality of outcomes. People endorsing this entire process have to first completely understand the consequences of it. It will eventually culminate the majoritism." So that's the first voice that's coming in, that's taken a different view within the Congress party, that is of Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who in fact has gone on to oppose this entire exercise of caste census. As we pointed out, that this is interesting because till now the reactions that we've been getting in since yesterday or even early morning, all within the opposition bloc, were in fact lauding the move of the Bihar government. Many within the Congress who we spoke to earlier in the day, in fact, were saying now other states should follow suit as well. Let's also now bring in our colleague and senior editor Pallavi Ghosh, who is joining us on the broadcast. Pallavi, this is going to give fodder to the BJP once again, because the BJP since yesterday from the Prime Minister himself has been saying this is just a move by the opposition to try and divide the country. Now you have voices within the Congress who are opposing this move. It's again going to raise a question mark as far as the opposition's own position is concerned.
Absolutely, Ridhima. He's one of the first voices to kind of speak out and give a voice to a sense of discomfort within the Congress party. One can understand, politically speaking, I would say electorally speaking, why the Congress party is pitching for a caste census and reservation for the OBCs and the SC/ST. Because if you go by what has happened in Bihar, it's at least 84%, a staggering number of SC plus ST plus OBC. So I think that has given greed to the Congress party that if we apply the same formula elsewhere, it certainly could help us notch up numbers for the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. But this is going to be at the cost of, say, the upper caste within the Congress party, because the Congress has also looked itself as a party which is progressive, which doesn't believe to go and push for a massive reservation. Because how do you explain the fact that there may be economically backward people who may belong to the upper caste who are more deserving of that special opportunity? I think the Prime Minister has tapped that narrative when he says the worst caste really is that of Garibi. So when he is going to make the basis of reservation for the economically weaker, I think within the Congress party there are going to be certain sentiments who really want to speak out against the big push which the Congress and Rahul Gandhi is making for the caste census plus reservation within reservation.
Pallavi, you know, since morning you've also been reporting, many sources within the Congress in fact were indicating to us that seeing the success or seeing the kind of numbers that have come out from Bihar's exercise, Congress possibly would want to push this in their poll narrative for 2024 as well. But if we continue to see the voices that we are seeing with the likes of Abhishek Manu Singhvi, where does it leave the Congress's own position?
Well, I don't see this as a big surprise that the Trinamool Congress so far doesn't really want to make it stand clear. They would rather wait for the next meeting of the India Front Alliance because they do understand the pitfalls of pushing in for this caste census and a reservation based on it. Look, as far as the calculation of statistics go, what has the BJP's vote bank traditionally been? It's been the upper caste plus the lower OBCs. The Prime Minister himself is an OBC, so the BJP will always get away with his argument that the topmost position in the government is actually given to a person who himself belongs to a backward community. So therefore the BJP cannot be accused of being a party for the privileged and the entitled. Now the Congress knows it will not get the upper caste vote largely, and therefore it wants to tap in on the rest of the vote. Whether it's going to work for them, I mean, remember the last time round the Mandal Commission recommendations were implemented, we saw a huge uproar, and that really did backfire eventually, which is why the Congress party tried to steer clear of this debate. Rahul Gandhi has reignited this narrative, and there are voices within the Congress party who are being very cautious, and Abhishek Manu Singhvi, of course, is more vocal than the rest of them.
Pallavi, we'll just request you to stay on with us as you were rightly pointing out some very important figures that in fact have come out of this exercise that has been carried out by the Bihar government. So let's break down those numbers for the benefit of our viewers, and also we'll break down what we are seeing in terms of the reactions that are coming in from the opposition parties. Let's first begin with what Congress sources are telling us here at CNN News 18. This is what Pallavi was referring to as well. The caste survey becomes a big boost as far as the Congress in Bihar is concerned. They see this as a big opportunity. Congress sources also telling us that the Congress in fact is planning to include it in their manifesto going forward come 2024. Congress sources also telling us the Congress will try and push for an OBC, SC, ST reservation as well to try and push for an upliftment of the underprivileged. Congress sources also telling us Congress and the allies to make it a part of the poll issue as well. But when you have voices like of Abhishek Manu Singhvi, that is going to become a lot of fodder as far as the BJP is concerned. Now let's break down the overview in terms of the big numbers that are emerging as part of this exercise. The total population is upwards of 13 crores. 13 crores, 7 lakhs, 25,310. Let's give you a breakup. The backward class is at 27.12%, unreserved is 15.52, extremely backward class 36.01, scheduled caste 19.65, scheduled tribe 1.68. This unreserved in fact is the general category, which is just short of 16%. Now these numbers become a big fulcrum as far as the political debate is concerned. The opposition now seeing an opportunity, seeing that this can be implemented in other states as well. The BJP is saying this is just the opposition trying to divide the country. Some other reactions also coming in.
After Bihar released its caste survey, caste census, pressure is mounting in Karnataka on the Backward Class Commission to release its socio-economic survey, which also has a caste element in the entire survey that took place. It started way back in 2015. I have Mr. Jayaprakash Hegde, who's heading the commission. Sir, the survey is done. By when can you submit this report to the government? Because there are expectations after the Bihar development.
This is not caste census. This is called social and educational survey.
Yeah.
So, not just the two factors are there in the report. Total information about the family is there. What are they doing? How many members are there in the family? What occupation? Everything is. So this is much more than what is there in probably Bihar caste census. This is pioneered by Karnataka only. See, Karnataka is a pioneer.
ना कुटुंब सभ्यलारा किसी भी देश और राज्य के विकास के लिए बहुत आवश्यक है वो राज्य बिजली उत्पादन के विषय में ज्यादा से ज्यादा आत्मनिर्भर हो। जब राज्य में बिजली की प्रचुरता रहती है तो ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस और ईज ऑफ लिविंग दोनों ही सुधर जाती है। सुचारू बिजली सप्लाई राज्य के औद्योगिक विकास को भी गति देती है। आज पेदपल्ली जिले में एनटीपीसी के सुपर थर्मल पावर प्रोजेक्ट की पहली यूनिट का लोकार्पण हुआ है। जल्दी इसकी सेकंड यूनिट भी शुरू हो जाएगी। जब इस प्रोजेक्ट का सेकंड फेज पूरा होगा तो इस प्लांट की इंस्टॉल कैपेसिटी 4000 मेगावाट हो जाएगी। मुझे खुशी है कि एनटीपीसी के देश में जितने भी पावर प्लांट्स हैं उसमें ये सबसे आधुनिक प्लांट है। इस प्लांट में जो बिजली पैदा होगी उसका बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा तेलंगाना के लोगों को मिलेगा। हमारी सरकार जिस प्रोजेक्ट की शुरुआत करती है उसे पूरा भी करके दिखाती है। मुझे याद है अगर 2016 में मैंने इस प्रोजेक्ट की नींव रखी थी, अब आज इसके लोकार्पण का भी सौभाग्य मुझे मिला है। यही हमारी सरकार का नया वर्क कल्चर है। ना कुटुंब सुंबुलायरा, हमारी सरकार तेलंगाना के लोगों की ऊर्जा से जुड़ी अन्य जरूरतों को पूरा करने के लिए भी काम कर रही है। वो दिन पहले ही जब मैं हासन चेरलापल्ली एलपीजी पाइपलाइन का लोकार्पण करने का मुझे अवसर मिला था। ये पाइपलाइन एलपीजी ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन और उसका ट्रांसपोर्टेशन और डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की सेफ, कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव और इको फ्रेंडली व्यवस्था विकसित करने का आधार बनेगी। ना कुटुंब सभ्युलारा, आज ही मुझे धर्माबाद, मनोहराबाद और महमूदनगर कर्नूल रेलवे स्टेशन के इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन प्रोजेक्ट को राष्ट्र को समर्पित करने का अवसर प्राप्त हुआ है। इससे तेलंगाना की कनेक्टिविटी भी बढ़ेगी और साथ ही दोनों ट्रेनों की औसत गति भी बढ़ेगी। भारतीय रेल अगले कुछ महीनों में सभी रेल लाइनों के 100% इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन का लक्ष्य लेकर के चल रही है। आज ही मनोहराबाद सिद्दीपेट नई रेल लाइन का भी लोकार्पण हुआ है। इससे व्यापार कारोबार को बढ़ावा मिलेगा। 2016 में मुझे इस परियोजना की भी नींव रखने का अवसर मिला था। आज ये काम भी पूरा हो गया है। ना कुटुंब सभ्युलारा, हमारे देश में लंबे समय तक हेल्थ केयर पर सिर्फ समृद्ध लोगों का अधिकार समझा जाता था। बीते 9 वर्षों में हमने इस चुनौती को हल करने के लिए कई कदम उठाए, जैसे स्वास्थ्य सुविधाएं अवेलेबल भी हो, एफोर्डेबल भी हो। भारत सरकार मेडिकल कॉलेजों में और एम्स की संख्या बढ़ा रही है। तेलंगाना के लोग एम्स की बीबी नगर में चल रहे भवन निर्माण का हमारा काम भी देख रहे हैं। जब अस्पताल बड़े हैं तो साथ ही मरीजों का ध्यान रखने के लिए डॉक्टर्स और नर्सेज की संख्या भी बढ़ रही है। ना कुटुंब सभ्युलारा, आज भारत में दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी हेल्थ एश्योरेंस स्कीम आयुष्मान भारत चल रही है। इसके कारण सिर्फ तेलंगाना में 70 लाख से अधिक लोगों को 5 लाख रुपए तक का मुफ्त इलाज करवाने की गारंटी मिली है। जन औषधि केंद्रों पर गरीब और मिडिल क्लास को 80% डिस्काउंट पर दवाई दी जा रही है। इससे परिवार हर महीने हजारों रुपये बचा पा रहे हैं। ना कुटुंब सभ्युलारा, हर जिले में अच्छा हेल्थ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो, इसके लिए हमने प्रधानमंत्री आयुष्मान भारत इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मिशन की शुरुआत की है। आज इस मिशन के तहत तेलंगाना के 20 क्रिटिकल केयर ब्लॉक्स का शिलान्यास हुआ है। इन ब्लॉक्स को ऐसे बनाया जाएगा कि इसमें डेडिकेटेड आइसोलेशन वार्ड्स, ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई, इन्फेक्शन प्रिवेंशन एंड कंट्रोल की पूरी व्यवस्था हो। तेलंगाना में स्वास्थ्य सुविधाएं बढ़ाने के लिए 5000 से अधिक आयुष्मान भारत हेल्थ एंड वेलनेस सेंटर भी काम कर रहे हैं। कोरोना वैश्विक महामारी के दौरान तेलंगाना में लगभग 50 बड़े पीएसए ऑक्सीजन प्लांट लगाए गए, जिसमें लोगों का जीवन बचाने में बहुत मदद मिली। ना कुटुंब सभ्युलारा, ऊर्जा, रेलवे और स्वास्थ्य से जुड़े अहम प्रोजेक्ट के लिए तेलंगाना के लोगों को मैं फिर से बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। और अब मुझे अगले कार्यक्रम के लिए लोग इंतजार कर रहे हैं, बड़े उमंग उत्साह से इंतजार कर रहे हैं। खुला मैदान है तो वहां कुछ खुल करके बातें भी हो जाएगी। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
to you by
Realities there also, and one of the engagement that he had was to go to the Gurudwara in Glasgow, where he was supposed to take part in the langar, and he was invited there by the Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee there, but somehow 2-3 people from the Khalistani sympathizer group, they got to know that Indian High Commissioner is reaching there, and they rushed there. They tried to disrupt the event inside the Gurudwara also, and then they rushed out at the car when it was parking in front of the Gurudwara, and they asked the High Commissioner to stop and go back. We could see in those videos when the driver was about to open the door for the High Commissioner, but because of the threat and intimidation by these Khalistani goons, he gets back to his seat and turns around and goes back. Meanwhile, we also see that Vikram Doraiswamy, the High Commissioner, tries to lock the car from inside and stop them from opening the car door. It was quite a threatening situation. India raised the issue with the British authorities and the Foreign Office of UK. What happened next was that another Khalistani protest that was planned in front of the Indian High Commissioner in London. But this time, the British officials were pretty alert, and there was some security measures that was also implied there. A barricade was put on the outer perimeter of Indian High Commissioner building in London, and the High Commissioner's building in London doesn't have a huge or long campus that will stop any passerby from entering or kind of attacking the building. So it was a barricade on the pavement that was put there, and the Khalistani protesters were kept on across the street. So on the other side, they kept on chanting and Indian slogans and threat and intimidation tactics for the Indian diplomats. But that is something that brings to the fore the issue of entire Khalistani nexus, which is kind of being allowed to operate in certain countries like Canada, UK, US and Australia. These are 4 countries where issue of Khalistani terrorism has been very vocal and kind of threatening for Indian diplomats. In the recent past, India has raised the issue with all of these countries, while Canadian authorities, for obviously a reason, domestic political reason, they were reluctant in acting against these terrorists. We have seen some assurances coming from Australian government, US also saying that they will look into the issues of Khalistani terrorists, and they do not support any violent group in the name of freedom of speech and expression. London authorities also has given assurances to the Indian government, especially ever since earlier this year, when some of the Khalistani members tried to breach into the building of London High Commission. One of them also pulled down the Indian Tiranga and tried to disrespect it. In the scuffle, one of the diplomat was injured as well. So it became quite a very flared up situation, and UK authorities did realize the fact that there is a clear threat and violence and intimidation from these Khalistani terrorists, and they are no more just a social or political activists trying to raise their voice for some cause. They are real violent extremist agents, and there has been some sort of security that has been extended to the Indian diplomat and Indian communities also there. But despite all these, we continue to see a rise in threat on social media. Various platforms of social media are also trying to propagate Indian diplomats as the part of India's larger conspiracy or larger network that is kind of doing extrajudicial things to these Khalistani terrorists. In fact, the Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy's name was also put on a social media poster, and he was blamed for the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar earlier this year in the month of June in one of the Gurudwara in Surrey in Canada. And these are the tactics that we have also seen happening in Australia, where the High Commissioners were threatened and intimidated by these Khalistani terrorists. So clearly India has raised the issue with certain authorities, but we'll have to see how much of these countries are actually going to work on the ground to stop and check these Khalistani agents from going ahead with this terror and threat activities against Indian diplomats, because the issue is now very flared up with Canada in the background. UK authorities also needs to keep a check on these Khalistani violent agents, or the bilateral relationship will clearly have a repercussion, as we have seen a huge diplomatic face-off that is already going on between India and Canada, and Indian government is not taking the entire allegation or entire blame game or diplomatic game lying down, and that could very well be the case with other countries as well, if these countries or these elements in those countries are not kept under check by the authorities or the administration in those countries. As India-Canada bilateral relationship is very much on the downhill because of the Khalistani issue, when Canadian side has alleged that Indian agencies' role were behind killing of Hardeep Mitchell, a dreaded Khalistani terrorist whom Canada thinks that he was a political activist. Now another front in Khalistani terrorism has opened in London as well, when Indian High Commissioner Vikram Swamy was stopped from entering a Gurudwara in Glasgow. He was there to take part in several cultural activities, and he did meet some of the eminent personalities there also. And one of the engagement that he had was to go to the Gurudwara in Glasgow, where he was supposed to take part in the langar, and he was invited there by the Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee there. But somehow 2-3 people from the Khalistani sympathizer group, they got to know that Indian High Commissioner is reaching there, and they rushed there. They tried to disrupt the event inside the Gurudwara also, and then they rushed out at the car when it was parking in front of the Gurudwara, and they asked the High Commissioner to stop and go back. We could see in those videos when the driver was about to open the door for the High Commissioner, but because of the threat and intimidation by these Khalistani goons, he gets back to his seat and turns around and goes back. Meanwhile, we also see that Vikram Swamy, the High Commissioner, tries to lock the car from his side and stop them from opening the car door. It was quite a threatening situation.
Welcome back. Thanks a lot for staying with us. And we're going straight across to visuals that are now coming in from Nizamabad in Telangana. This is the Prime Minister's roadshow. Remember, we just heard from the Prime Minister a short while ago when he did lay the foundation stone for a whole host of projects. Let's bring our colleague Swastika in the conversation. Swastika, massive crowd that is gathered to catch a glimpse of the Prime Minister. A short while ago, he did inaugurate a few projects, laid the foundation stones for a few projects as well. First, help us understand what is the plan as far as the Prime Minister's trip to Telangana is concerned.
Well, look, Prime Minister today unveiled projects to the tune of 8,021 crores, and this is his second visit in 2 days. In fact, earlier this week, he was in Mehboob Nagar, where he flagged off projects to the tune of 13,500 crores, and all these development projects comes in the backdrop of Telangana being a poll-bound state, and also with the fact that this is centre's way of reassuring that they are with the state people here, and this is one big pitch that they want to go ahead of elections, because their main opponent here is the ruling Bharat Rashtra Samiti led by Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao, who is also going into elections on the back of the welfare schemes that he has largely worked for. So to counter that narrative, and also the often allegation that's being leveled against centre is that the centre turning a blind eye to the state of Telangana, whether it comes to allocation, not allocation of medical colleges or in fact other developmental projects. Prime Minister leading the front for the BJP here in Telangana is a big messaging on two grounds. One, that Telangana is concerned, it is under the vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, the motto of the Prime Minister. And second, it is also being brought in to reinforce the faith among the local BJP cadres who have been rather confused on the ground with the change of state leadership which happened a couple of months ago from Bandi Sanjay to D. Kishan Reddy. PM Modi being the biggest star campaigner for the BJP here is again, apart from the moral boost exercise that the BJP wants to undertake, because this is for the first time that Prime Minister has visited Telangana in a span of 2 days, twice. And that also goes on to show that the party is very serious as far as Telangana is concerned, both for Assembly as well as for Lok Sabha.
Swastika, taking on from what you're saying, that this becomes a big messaging that is sent out to the ground Karyakartas as far as the local unit in Telangana is concerned. As you were rightly pointing out, because there have been multiple, changes at the state leadership with the likes of Bandi Sanjay, there have been a lot of controversies as well, which has given a lot of fodder to the opposition and the ruling government as well. Help us understand the big challenges as far as the BJP is concerned for Telangana.
Right. Ridhima, the first big challenge is, of course, boosting the morale of the cadres here who have been sort of dissuaded with the change in leadership. Many felt that removing Bandi Sanjay from state leadership and then handing over the reins to Kishan Reddy was something that was not in the good spirit of the party, because Bandi Sanjay, through his fiery oratory skills, was in fact able to make a lot of noise and make inroads for the BJP in terms of electoral performance, whether it was in GHMC or even in the by-polls. The second aspect is BJP
Have lost that
everything
line
is done and
with
the
our
party is expected to...
Swastika, we seem to have lost that line of yours in between. We can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Right. Continuing from where I left, the second big challenge for the BJP is, of course, finding the right candidates and winnable candidates. When it comes to their in the recent months, they've not been able to bring in big faces who can actually be portrayed by the party. In fact, that's one big challenge and something that Home Minister Amit Shah has also red flagged with the state leadership. The third factor here would be the issue of development in itself. The narrative that KCR has been putting forth is that Telangana is one state, despite being the top 5 performers in the country in terms of GDP, we've not received any kind of funds and grants from the centre, and that is the narrative that the centre wants to dislodge rather aggressively, and that's why Prime Minister coming to Nizamabad, Mehboob-Nagar, and more importantly, 2 big announcements which are very specific to Telangana. The constitution of a national spice board to assuage the concerns of turmeric farmers is likely to be a game changer from the BJP side. That's what they're expecting. And this is one seat where the BJP candidate Arvind Dharmapuri handed over defeat to the Chief Minister's daughter K. Kavita because the turmeric farmers were very angry. The other aspect is the tribal university, one of the key polls that was stipulated in the AP Reorganization Act. So by coming up with these big poll stops, the BJP sending out a big message that they are going to offer much more
so as
to Telangana
Pascal is
than
pointing
what
out
is
that
being
this
said.
is a significant visit by the Prime Minister on multiple levels, a big boost to the cadre on the ground as well. We'll keep tracking all those developments. For now, we do have to slip into a very short break.
Every good argument is based on hard facts. Facts that are indivisible and uncompromised. Watch me, Rahul Shivshankar, bring you a clear point of view based on indisputable facts.
The Hard Facts. Weeknights at this time, only on CNN News 18.
Is the issue with the British authorities and the Foreign Office of UK. What happened next was that another Khalistani protest that was planned in front of the Indian High Commissioner in London. But this time, the British officials were pretty alert and there was some security measures that was also implied there. A barricade was put on the outer perimeter of Indian High Commissioner building in London, and the High Commissioner's building in London doesn't have a huge or long campus that will stop any passerby from entering or kind of attacking the building. So it was a barricade on the pavement that was put there, and the Khalistani protesters were kept on across the street. So on the other side, they kept on chanting and Indian slogans and threat and intimidation tactics for the Indian diplomats. But that is something that brings to the fore the issue of entire Khalistani nexus, which is kind of being allowed to operate in certain countries like Canada, UK, US and Australia. These are 4 countries where issue of Khalistani terrorism has been very vocal and kind of threatening for Indian diplomats. In the recent past, India has raised the issue with all of these countries, while Canadian authorities, for obviously a reason, domestic political reason, they were reluctant in acting against these terrorists. We have seen some assurances coming from Australian government, US also saying that they will look into the issues of Khalistani terrorists and they do not support any violent group in the name of freedom of speech and expression. London authorities also has given assurances to the Indian government, especially ever since earlier this year when some of the Khalistani members tried to breach into the building of London High Commission. One of them also pulled down the Indian Tiranga and tried to disrespect it. In the scuffle, one of the diplomat was injured as well. So it became kind of a very flared up situation, and UK authorities did realize the fact that there is a clear threat and violence and intimidation from these Khalistani terrorists, and they are no more just a social or political activists trying to raise their voice for some cause. They are real violent extremist agents, and there has been some sort of security that has been extended to the Indian diplomat and Indian communities also there. But Despite all these, we continue to see a rise in threat on social media. Various platforms of social media are also trying to propagate Indian diplomats as the part of India's larger conspiracy or larger network that is kind of doing extrajudicial things to these Khalistani terrorists. In fact, the Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy's name was also put on a social media poster, and he was blamed for the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar earlier this year in the month of June in one of the Gurdwara in Surrey in Canada. And these are the tactics that we have also seen happening in Australia, where the High Commissioners were threatened and intimidated by these Khalistani terrorists. So clearly India has raised the issue with certain authorities, but we'll have to see how much of these countries are actually going to work on the ground to stop and check these Khalistani agents from going ahead with this their terror and threat activities against Indian diplomats, because the issue is now very flared up with Canada in the background. UK authorities also needs to keep a check on these Khalistani violent agents, or the bilateral relationship will clearly have a repercussion, as we have seen a huge diplomatic face-off that is already going on between India and Canada, and Indian government is not taking the entire allegation or entire blame game or diplomatic game lying down, and that could very well be the case with other countries as well, if these countries or these elements in those countries are not kept under check by the authorities or the administration in those countries. As the India-Canada bilateral relationship is very much on the downhill because of the Khalistani issue, when Canadian side has alleged that Indian agencies' role were behind killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a dreaded Khalistani terrorist whom Canada thinks that he was a political activist. Now another front in Khalistani terrorism has opened in London as well, when Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy was stopped from entering a Gurudwara in Glasgow. He was there to take part in several cultural activities, and he did meet some of the eminent personalities there also. And one of the engagement that he had was to go to the Gurudwara in Glasgow, where he was supposed to take part in the langar, and he was invited there by the Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee there. But somehow 2-3 people from the Khalistani sympathizer group, they got to know that Indian High Commissioner is reaching there, and they rushed there. They tried to disrupt the event inside the Gurudwara also, and then they rushed out at the car when it was parking in front of the Gurudwara, and they asked the High Commissioner to stop and go back. We could see in those videos when the driver was about to open the door for the High Commissioner, but because of the threat and intimidation by these Khalistani goons, he gets back to his seat and turns around and goes back. Meanwhile, we also see that Vikram Doraiswamy, the High Commissioner, tries to lock the car from his side and stop them from opening the car door. It was quite a threatening situation. India raised the issue with the British authorities and the Foreign Office of UK. What happened next was that another Khalistani protest that was planned in front of the Indian High Commissioner in London. But this time, the British officials were pretty alert, and there was some security measures that was also implied there. A barricade was put on the outer perimeter of Indian High Commissioner building in London, and the High Commissioner's building in London doesn't have a huge or long campus that will stop any passerby from entering or kind of attacking the building. So it was a barricade on the pavement that was put there, and the Khalistani protesters were kept on across the street. So on the other side, they kept on chanting and Indian slogans, anti threat and intimidation tactics for the Indian diplomats. But that is something that brings to the fore the issue of entire Khalistani nexus, which is kind of being allowed to operate in certain countries like Canada, UK, US and Australia. These are the 4 countries where issue of Khalistani terrorism has been very vocal and kind of threatening for Indian diplomats. In the recent past, India has raised the issue.
Welcome back. Thanks a lot for staying with us. We're getting some breaking developments now coming in. And we're tracking the details of that very unfortunate tragedy that has taken place. And this now looks like it's the fallout of that very unfortunate tragedy as far as the Nanded hospital is concerned. Now you have a new dean in place. You have the Shiv Sena Shinde faction MP from Nanded itself, who in fact has been made the dean of this Nanded government hospital. And see the first visuals that are coming in. It's coming in too late in the day. You have this MP who's been appointed as the dean trying to clean the hospital, but as we pointed out, coming very late in the day. Upwards of 20 deaths that have already been confirmed just in the last 24 hours, and many saying that this figure, unfortunately, in fact, will increase. Many of these out of the 20 deaths that have happened were in fact children. Let's also now bring in our colleague Mayuresh, who's joining us on the broadcast. Mayuresh, as we stay with these visuals that are coming in, you have some politician who's finally reached the hospital trying to clean the premises. It's coming too late in the day. Upwards of 20 deaths that have already happened, and majority of them were children.
Absolutely. See, there is an anger within the people also, saying there are people who have lost loved ones. But this particular treatment the MP has given it to, it's quite not acceptable, because whatever action has to happen, that action the committee basically committee will mention their recommendations on the basis of the inquiry which they're conducting now. But MP, instead of taking action or instead of taking care of the hospital or raising the issues related to that particular hospital, if he's making that particular dean clean the toilet of the hospital, it is not acceptable. But the question which has been basically raised against MP Hemant Patel, that why he was silent, why didn't he basically raise the issue of this particular hospital, and if so cleanliness of those in the hospital, why didn't he do that particular?
Well, we seem to be losing that line with our colleague Mayuresh, but the question still remains that this was not a new issue. The hospital had been facing issues for a long time. Why weren't these issues voiced? These lives, in fact, could have been saved. As of now, the official figure that we're picking up is 24, but as I pointed out, many pointing out that this death toll, unfortunately, in fact, will increase, and many of those who've lost their lives, in fact, were children. This, unfortunately, has also led to a political war of words. You have many within the Congress also training their guns at the state government, saying that a similar tragedy happened in the month of August. Were there no lessons learned? Some other reactions now coming in.
नांदेड़ हॉस्पिटल की जो दुर्घटना है सरकार ने गंभीरता से ली हुई है, और सुबह ही मैंने दोनों सेक्रेटरी को बुलाया था, उनसे प्राथमिक जानकारी ली हुई है। अस्पताल में मेडिसिन बिल्कुल पूरी तरह जितना आवश्यक है उतना वहाँ पर था, डॉक्टर और स्टाफ वहाँ पर मौजूद थे। जो घटना हुई है वो दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है, इसकी जांच होगी और कार्रवाई हो जाएगी, और सरकार ने इसे गंभीरता से लिए इसलिए क्योंकि वहाँ पर हमारे जो मंत्री है और सेक्रेटरी है वहाँ पर उनको तत्काल वहाँ पर भेजा है, और इसके बाद इसकी पूरी जो आवश्यक जानकारी है वो प्राप्त हो जाएगी और आवश्यक जांच होगी और उसके ऊपर आगे की कार्रवाई होगी। लेकिन सरकार ने ये दुर्घटना जो हुई है ये घटना गंभीरता से ली हुई है।
That was the reaction that was coming in from the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, who is saying that we're at the top of our game. We're taking all possible steps. We're investigating the matter also. He's also denying the allegations that the hospital, in fact, did not have enough medicines. Let's also now bring in our colleague Yesha, who's joining us on the broadcast. Yesha, today we just got some visuals coming in a short while ago. The MP who's been made the dean of the government hospital, cleaning the toilets of the hospital. All of this coming way too late in the day. The point that the Congress is making is that this is not new as far as the hospital is concerned. A similar tragedy happened in the month of August as well. Were there no lessons learned?
In fact, yes, we're seeing that the opposition parties are raising this issue, be it that of Kalwa, be it that of Nanded, or be it that of Sambhaji Nagar. And now we're seeing ever since yesterday, there are various such issues that are being raised across various hospitals across the state. One was, of course, we saw that NCP leaders had raised the issue that a similar instance had taken place 2 months back at Kalwa, following which there was an inquiry that was set up by the state government. In fact, it was Chief Minister Eknath Shinde who had himself visited that very hospital to take a stock of the situation. Today as well, after the cabinet meeting, an announcement has been made by Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, wherein he's saying that an inquiry has been formed. In fact, Hassan Mushrif would be heading that inquiry, and there will be further investigations that will be underway. Speaking of the visuals that have come out,
Yesha, I
we've seen that
apologize for
yesterday,
interrupting. We
it
do
was
have
Adil
to
himself
shift
who
our
had denied-
focus to some big breaking developments that are now coming in. Our viewers would remember there were raids that were happening at employees and even journalists here in the Delhi-NCR region as far as the media organization NewsClick is concerned. And now the information that you're hearing first on CNN News 18 is after day-long raids by the Delhi police, the NewsClick office in fact has been sealed. We'll try and connect with Anvit, who in fact is getting us this information, but the update that's coming in is that the NewsClick office in fact has been sealed. Some visuals on your screens as well. Earlier in the day, you had the director of NewsClick who was being questioned by the Delhi Police Special Cell as well. You had employees of the organization being questioned by the Delhi Police Special Cell as well. You had multiple journalists whose residences in fact were raided. They were being questioned as well. Electronic devices had been picked up, laptops as well as mobile phones, the evidence on which we don't know what really has been found. But the first update that you're getting as far as the story is concerned, visuals on your screen, NewsClick office in fact now being sealed. We'll try and connect with Anvit to try and understand what the future course of action will be. Also, if you're hearing any details in terms of the interrogation that was happening with people who are currently under the scanner. Anvit is now joining us on the broadcast. Anvit, help us understand what really is happening now.
See, the latest that we are getting in is that the NewsClick office in Saidullah Jab, that has been sealed by the police. A police team was there earlier and they have sealed the office. All the members, they had been asked to vacate the office and the office has been sealed. A seal has been put on the gate, a lock has been put and the office is completely sealed now. What latest development at the Lodi Road office of the special cell is that third person has walked out of the questioning. Two people had earlier been let off, third person has walked out. We are believing that more and more people, as the questioning completes, they will be asked to leave. Whether or not these detentions will be converted into arrests, we don't know as of now, but the police are saying that questioning is still going on of some people who are still inside. At least 4 to 5 people were given to understand that are still inside and they are being questioned based on the material that was seized from their houses. Now, police have said that they have hard disks, they have laptops and phones, and there's voluminous data that they are going through. And depending upon whatever data is there, whatever they manage to extract from these devices, based on that, questioning is being done. So 3 people have been let off, 3 to 4 people are still inside. They are being questioned based on that. As far as this entire case is concerned, and today's raids are concerned, they are being done. Basically, they are subsequent to an FIR that was registered on August 17, and this section that in this FIR that were pressed in were UAPA 16. That was against anyone who performs any sort of terrorist act. UAPA 17 was also written there. That was raising funds to commit a terrorist act. Then UAPA 18 is another important one that was put in there, which was conspiracy or someone who conspires or attempts a terrorist act. These 3 are the main sections. Other than that, UAPA 22 is that criminal conspiracy is there, and provoking 2 groups against each other, inciting criminal violence. These are also there, including criminal conspiracy. But previously when ED had been probing this case, they had also been probing it under PMLA, under prevention of money laundering, and when ED found that there are certain elements in this case that are beyond the ambit of PMLA, only then the special cell was informed. And now the anti-terror unit of Delhi Police, the special cell, they have registered this FIR and probe is going on.
Okay, Anvit, we will have to leave that conversation there. That's the big update that's coming in. This is the developing story that the NewsClick office in fact has been sealed. Well, with that, it's a wrap from my side, but news continues here in CNN News 18. Nation at 5 is up next.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching CNN News 18. This is Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. We are staying with the top story of not just this hour but the entire day. The one story that has grabbed headlines are the raids that were conducted at multiple locations of NewsClick offices, of the residences of the employees. Raids that began early this morning still continue. Several seizures were made after NewsClick employees and journalists were raided. They were summoned for questioning, including the founder of the media organization, Prabir Purkayastha, who even as we speak is at the Lodi Road police station being questioned, and he's not the only one. Several journalists with NewsClick, several of their employees are also being questioned by the Delhi police. Chinese funding, foreign funding is what is under the scanner. All of that is being investigated even as we speak. Like I said, several seizures were made by the Delhi police, including laptops, phones and hard disks, all of which will be digitally analyzed. Remember, a few months ago, we had an international organization, the New York Times, that came out with a report that spoke about NewsClick receiving Chinese funding, doing China's bidding, especially during COVID times. Post that, there was an Enforcement Directorate investigation that took place into the issue as well, which is currently on hold after directions from the Supreme Court. Now, we have the Delhi Police Special Cell conducting its own investigation as far as NewsClick and its funding is concerned. Let's quickly take a look at some of the details of what exactly NewsClick is accused of. There are several allegations that are being made, and the journalists of NewsClick who have been booked today have been booked under the anti-terror law. Several sections of the UAPA have been invoked against them. But here's what the Delhi police sources are telling us of what exactly the allegations against NewsClick and its employees are. NewsClick is accused of violating the FCRA Act. This is as far as receiving funding from outside of the country is concerned. That is something that is under investigation and under the scanner. NewsClick employees are also accused of doing China's bidding, receiving funds from the Chinese side. Showing CCP in good light is one of the allegations that was brought out by the NYT report back in August as well. NewsClick allegedly received funds from China, and that is something that both the Enforcement Directorate was investigating earlier, and now Delhi Police is looking into it. The funds reportedly were routed through the United States, is what the agencies believe. That link is under the investigation now. Back when Enforcement Directorate was investigating this case, they found suspicious financial transactions. That is what we're learning from our sources within Delhi Police. These employees were accused of towing an anti-India line, which is why they have been booked now, and the investigations into their antecedents is underway. NewsClick reportedly was paid to defend the COVID handling by China, which is why the money was coming in from China. That's the allegation that NewsClick faces. That's the allegation that is under investigation. These funds were allegedly distributed to activists in the country as well. Several other activists were named both by the NYT report. The Enforcement Directorate investigation also did lead to those allegations, and all of that is now under investigation. Yasha, my colleague Anvit, also joining us here on this broadcast, getting us more details of what exactly has been transpiring since the raids began this morning. Anvit, even as we speak, all of those people, including the editor-in-chief, the founder of NewsClick, are still at the Lodi Road police station being questioned?
Yeah, they're all inside right now. We are right there, and they're all inside this office. They're all being questioned. At least 6 to 7 people who had been detained early in the morning, they're all inside. And in fact, in the last 1 hour, 3 persons.
तेज गति मिलने वाली है और इस प्लांट में जो बिजली पैदा होगी उसका ज्यादा हिस्सा तेलंगाना को ही मिलेगा, आपको ही मिलेगा, और इससे आपकी ईज ऑफ लिविंग बढ़ेगी। भाइयों बहनों, आपको याद होगा इस प्रोजेक्ट का शिलान्यास करने का सौभाग्य मुझे मिला था, और ये मोदी की गारंटी की ताकत देखिए, आज मोदी ही आके उसका उद्घाटन कर रहा है। आज ही रेलवे और हेल्थ के भी कई प्रोजेक्ट्स तेलंगाना के मेरे भाइयों बहनों के चरणों में आज मुझे समर्पित करने का सौभाग्य मिला है। इनसे तेलंगाना के लोगों के क्रिटिकल केयर की सुविधा मिलेगी और कनेक्टिविटी भी बढ़ेगी। तेलंगाना और तेलंगाना के लोगों के कल्याण के प्रति भाजपा का, बीजेपी का संकल्प लगातार मजबूत हो रहा है। ना कुटुंब सभ्युलारा, आज सबसे पहले मैं निजामाबाद की माताओं, बहनों, बेटियों को धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगा। और आज यहां इतनी बड़ी तादाद में माताएं बहनें स्वागत करने, आशीर्वाद देने आई, उससे बड़ा जीवन का सौभाग्य क्या होता है। तेलंगाना की मेरी बहनें एक बड़ी क्रांति का हिस्सा बनी है। तेलंगाना की मेरी बहनों ने इतिहास बनाया है। कुछ ही दिन पहले संसद में नारी शक्ति वंदन अधिनियम पास हो गया है। कांग्रेस और उसके इंडी अलायंस, एक घमंडिया गठबंधन 30 साल से उसे रोककर बैठे थे। उनको किसी की परवाह नहीं थी। भांति भांति के चालाकियां करते थे, दिखावा करते थे और खेल दूसरा खेलते थे। लेकिन इस बार ये मेरे देश की माताओं बहनों की ताकत देखिए, नारी शक्ति की संगठित ताकत देखिए कि सारे घमंडिया लोगों को ये संसद के अंदर नारी शक्ति वंदन अधिनियम को मजबूरी से समर्थन करना पड़ा है। ये इसलिए हो पाया क्योंकि तेलंगाना की महिलाओं ने, मेरे देश की माताओं बहनों ने साथ मिलकर वोट की शक्ति से, अपने एक एक वोट से माताओं ने उसके इस बेटे को मजबूत बनाया है। बहनों ने उनके इस भाई को मजबूत बनाया है। और माताएं बहनें, आपने मजबूती दी है, इसलिए मजबूती से ये आपका बेटा काम कर पा रहा है। నా కుటుంబ సభ్యులారా, तेलंगाना वो राज्य है जिसने देश के विकास में हमेशा अपना योगदान दिया है। आप भारत की प्रगति के आधार है। तेलंगाना में चारों तरफ टैलेंट ही टैलेंट है। जब दुनिया में इतनी बड़ी कोरोना महामारी आई तो तेलंगाना ने भी वैक्सीन बनाकर पूरी दुनिया में भेजी। तेलंगाना के लोगों में विकास की जो एस्पिरेशन है, उसे मैं भली भांति समझ सकता हूं। अभी मैं देख रहा था, क्या वाइब्रेंसी थी, क्या ऊर्जा थी, क्या जुनून था। मेरे साथियों, आपको 100 सलाम। केंद्र सरकार में रहते हुए हम तेलंगाना के लिए जितना कर सकते हैं वो हम लगातार कर रहे हैं। आपको याद होगा ना, हम लोगों ने निजाम की हुकूमत, देश तो आजाद हुआ था, लेकिन हमारा ये हैदराबाद और ये सारा इलाका आजाद नहीं हुआ था। निजाम अड़ंगे लगा करके बैठा था कि नहीं बैठा था? बैठ रहा था कि नहीं बैठ रहा था? एक गुजराती बेटा सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल, उसने ताकत का परिचय दिया और आपकी आजादी को पक्का कर दिया। आज दूसरा गुजराती बेटा आपकी समृद्धि के लिए आया है, आपके विकास के लिए आया है, आपकी बढ़ाई के लिए आया है। हमने तेलंगाना में नेशनल हाईवेज, नई रेल लाइनों, नए अस्पतालों का निर्माण किया है। भाजपा सरकार ने यहां बीआरएस सरकार को तेलंगाना के विकास के लिए भारी धनराशि भी दी है, लेकिन दुर्भाग्य से बीआरएस ने तेलंगाना के लोगों के लिए भेजागा जो पैसा भेजा ना, उसमें भी लूट चलाई। लूट सके तो लूट, यही उनका मंत्र है। ना कुटुंब सभ्युलारा, भारत जैसे लोकतंत्र देश में प्रजा का महत्व होना चाहिए, परिवारवादियों का नहीं। और इन्होंने तो लोकतंत्र को लूट तंत्र बना दिया है, प्रजातंत्र को परिवार तंत्र बना दिया है। तेलंगाना के निर्माण के लिए हजारों परिवार संघर्ष करते करते तबाह हो गए। अनेकों नौजवानों ने बलिदान दिया, माताएं बहनों ने मुसीबतें झेली, लेकिन एक परिवार ने सब कुछ कब्जा कर लिया और उन परिवारों को कोई पूछने वाला नहीं है। तेलंगाना में बस एक ही परिवार ने यहां के लाखों परिवारों के सपनों पर कब्जा कर लिया है। वर्तमान तेलंगाना में या तो केसीआर खुद है, या उनके बेटे हैं, या उनकी बेटी है, या उनके भतीजे हैं, या उनके भांजे हैं, या चाहे उनके ससुराल वाले हैं। कोई बचा ही नहीं है, बस यही काम, लूटो। क्या आपने कभी सोचा है कि वो कैसे आपके एक वोट का उपयोग केवल अपने परिवार को अमीर बनाने में कर रहे हैं? इन लोगों ने तेलंगाना में भाई भतीजावाद और भ्रष्टाचार को बढ़ावा दिया है। ना कुटुंब सभ्युलारा, परिवारवाद का सबसे बड़ा नुकसान देश के युवा को उठाना पड़ता है। जब पूरा सिस्टम एक परिवार की सेवा में लगा रहता है, तब वो परिवार सिस्टम में टॉप से लेकर बॉटम तक उन्हीं लोगों की भर्ती करता है जो उनके करीबी हो। तेलंगाना के नौजवानों को वो अवसर नहीं मिलता है। फिर किसी भी महत्वपूर्ण पद पर तेलंगाना के तेजस्वी युवा को भी कोई मौका नहीं मिल पाता है। इन लोगों से अलग बीजेपी एक ऐसी पार्टी है जो किसी विशेष परिवार के बजाय सामान्य मानवी और उसके परिवार के लिए काम करती है। నా కుటుంబ సభ్యులారా, तेलंगाना के लोगों को ये कांग्रेस से भी बहुत सावधान रहने की जरूरत है। ये तो बड़े खिलाड़ी हैं, इनको देश समाज कुछ लेना देना ही नहीं है। और पूरा हिंदुस्तान कांग्रेस को नकार चुका है, नकार चुका है। और आप तो जानते हैं, कांग्रेस जिस राज्य में से एक बार जाती है, फिर उसका सरकार में वापस आना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है। और इसलिए कांग्रेस की कोशिश किसी भी तरह वोटों का बंटवारा करने का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट लिया है और बीआरएस कांग्रेस को वोटों का बंटवारा कराने के लिए तिजोरी खुली करके बैठ गई है। पर्दे के पीछे खेल चल रहा है, बैकडोर एंट्री ये बीआरएस और कांग्रेस की भरपूर चल रही है। इसके लिए वो राज्य की अन्य कमजोर पार्टियों को अपना सहारा बना रहे हैं। आज जब तेलंगाना में बीआरएस की हार तय है, बीआरएस का पराजय तय है, बीआरएस का जाना तय है, तो कांग्रेस ने पर्दे के पीछे बीआरएस से गठबंधन कर लिया है। कर्नाटका चुनाव में बीआरएस ने कांग्रेस की जमकर मदद की थी और अब इस चुनाव में कांग्रेस अपना कर्ज उतार रही है, क्योंकि कर्नाटक में भरपूर खजाना, ये तेलंगाना की जनता से लूटा हुआ माल कर्नाटका में कांग्रेस को दे दिया गया ताकि वहां कांग्रेस जीत जाए, फिर उसको मिलकर के तेलंगाना में जिल जाए। ये बीआरएस खेल करती है भाइयों। मैं आज पहली बार एक रहस्य खोलने जा रहा हूं। खोल दूं? सच बता दूं? बता दूं? बता दूं भाइयों? पहले कभी नहीं बताया, आज बता देता हूं। और मेरे पत्रकार मित्रों से भी कहता हूं, जांच करवा लेना। 100% सच्चाई बताने आया हूं मैं आज। जब हैदराबाद म्युनिसिपल कॉरपोरेशन का इलेक्शन हुआ, भारतीय जनता पार्टी 40-45 सीटें जीत करके आ गई। 48 किसी को बहुमत नहीं मिला। केसीआर को सपोर्ट की जरूरत थी और आपने देखा होगा हैदराबाद कॉरपोरेशन के चुनाव के पहले वो एयरपोर्ट में पूरी फौज लेकर के मेरा स्वागत करने के लिए आते थे, बढ़िया बढ़िया माला पहनाते थे, बहुत सम्मान करते थे, याद है ना? फिर क्या हुआ भाई, अचानक बंद हो गए। अचानक इतना गुस्सा क्यों निकल रहा है? इसका कारण यह है कि हैदराबाद के चुनाव के बाद, ये भी तारीख चेक कर ले मीडिया वाले, वो दिल्ली मुझे मिलने आए, बहुत बढ़िया मुझे शाल उड़ाई, बहुत मुझे आदर किया और इतना प्यार दिखाया, इतना प्यार दिखाया, ये केसीआर के कैरेक्टर में ही नहीं है। और फिर मुझे कहने लगे कि आपके नेतृत्व में देश प्रगति कर रहा है। हम भी एनडीए का हिस्सा बनना चाहते हैं। आप हमें एनडीए में शामिल कर दीजिए। मैंने कहा आगे क्या? बोले हैदराबाद में म्युनिसिपल कॉरपोरेशन में हमारी मदद कर दीजिए। मैंने केसीआर को कहा आपके कारनामे ऐसे हैं, मोदी आपके साथ जुड़ नहीं सकता है। हैदराबाद में हमें विपक्ष में बैठना पड़ेगा तो बैठेंगे। केसीआर की सरकार हमारे कार्यकर्ताओं पर जुल्म करेगी तो जुल्म सहेंगे, लेकिन हम तेलंगाना की जनता से दगा नहीं कर सकते हैं। भले तेलंगाना की जनता ने हैदराबाद में हमें पूर्ण बहुमत दे दिया, लेकिन 48 सीट भी तेलंगाना का भाग्य बदलने की शुरुआत है। और मैंने उनसे हर प्रकार से मदद करने का इनकार कर दिया। उनको एनडीए में एंट्री देने से इनकार कर दिया। उसके बाद उनका दिमाग फटका। फिर तो वो भांति भांति से दूर भागने रहे। मैं भ्रष्टाचार के सवाल पूछने लगा, फिर एक बार दोबारा आए। वो मुझे कह रहे हैं कि मोदी जी मैंने बहुत काम कर लिया, अब मैं सारा कारोबार केटीआर को दे देना चाहता हूं। मैं एक बार केटीआर को भेजूंगा, आप जरा उसको आशीर्वाद दे देना। ये उन्होंने मुझे कहा। मैंने कहा केसीआर, ये लोकतंत्र है, तुम कौन होते हो बेटे को राजगादी दे? तुम राजा महाराजा हो क्या? क्या तुम राजा महाराजा हो क्या? अरे तेलंगाना की जनता तय करेगी किसको बिठाना है, किसको नहीं बिठाना है। बस वो दिन आखिरी था। उसके बाद एक बार भी वो मेरे से आंखें नहीं मिला पा रहे। मेरा परछाया भी देखने की हिम्मत नहीं बची उनकी। आप देखा, अभी मैं सरकारी कार्यक्रम करके आया, कोई भ्रष्टाचारी मेरे बगल में बैठ करके मेरा ताप सहन नहीं कर सकता है, इसलिए भाग रहे हैं। मेरे परिवारजनों, कांग्रेस ने अब एक नई बात शुरू की है। ये तो मैंने केसीआर का पुराण बताया। अब कांग्रेस ने सत्ता भूख के लिए, सत्ता हथियाने के लिए एक नई भाषा बोलना शुरू किया है, नई बातें बोलना शुरू किया है। आजकल क्या कह रहे हैं? जितनी आबादी उतना हक। मैं जरा पूछना चाहता हूं कि जिन्होंने इनको वाक्य लिख करके दिया है, उसने सोचा है क्या? जब तुम कह रहे हो तो कांग्रेस की मूलभूत नीतियों पर ही सवाल खड़ा कर रहे हो। जब आप कहते हो जितनी आबादी उतना हक, इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि अब कांग्रेस घोषणा करे, क्या आप अल्पसंख्यकों के विरोधी है क्या? कांग्रेस स्पष्ट करे, आप दक्षिण भारत के विरोधी है क्या? मैं सिद्ध करता हूं, उनकी ये नई सोच दक्षिण भारत के साथ घोर अन्याय करने वाली सोच है। ये नई सोच माइनॉरिटी के पीठ में भी छुरा भोंकने वाली सोच है। आजकल देश में अगले डिलिमिटेशन की चर्चा हो रही है। आपको मालूम है ना, 25 साल के बाद पार्लियामेंट की सीटें कितनी होगी, कौन सी क्या होगी, इसका निर्णय जुडिशरी करती है। और उसके कारण जहां जनसंख्या कम है उसकी सीटें कम हो जाती है, जहां जनसंख्या ज्यादा है उनकी सीटें बढ़ जाती है। अब हमारे दक्षिण भारत के सभी राज्यों ने जनसंख्या वृद्धि को रोकने में बहुत बड़ी देश की मदद की है। अब कांग्रेस का नारा ऐसा है कि जिसकी जितनी आबादी उतना उसका हक। इसका मतलब अब कांग्रेस दक्षिण भारत के संसद सदस्यों की संख्या कम करने का नाटक करने जा रही है, खेल खेलने जा रही है। क्या दक्षिण भारत इसको स्वीकार करेगा? क्या दक्षिण भारत कांग्रेस की चाल को स्वीकार करेगा? क्या दक्षिण भारत कांग्रेस को माफ करेगा? इसी विषय पर मैं कांग्रेस के नेताओं को साफ कहता हूं, देश को मूर्ख मत बनाओ, स्पष्ट करो क्या कारण है दक्षिण भारत के राज्यों को अन्याय करने के खेल खेले जा रहे हैं। और इंडी गठबंधन के दूसरे दलों से भी मैं कहूंगा, हिम्मत है तो जरा कांग्रेस से पूछिए कि वो किस रास्ते पर जा रही है। मैं दूसरा सवाल पूछता हूं, जो कहते हैं जितनी आबादी उतना हक, मैं कांग्रेस को सवाल पूछता हूं, साउथ के अंदर खास करके तमिलनाडु में मंदिरों पर सरकार का हक है, सरकार ने कब्जा कर लिया है। मंदिरों की संपत्ति को सरकारी मिलीभगत में हड़प किया जा रहा है, मंदिरों को तो लूटा जा रहा है, मंदिरों को तो कब्जा किया गया है, लेकिन माइनॉरिटी के पूजा स्थल को हाथ नहीं लगाते हैं, सरकार के नियंत्रण में नहीं लेते हैं। अब कांग्रेस ने जो नारा दिया है, कांग्रेस ने कहा है कि जितनी आबादी उतना हक। अगर यही आपका मंत्र है, यही आपका सिद्धांत है, तो क्या माइनॉरिटी के जितने पूजा स्थल है उनको ये दक्षिण के आपके सारे साथी जब्त करेंगे क्या? उनका कब्जा करेंगे क्या? उनकी प्रॉपर्टी को लोगों के काम में लाएंगे क्या? नहीं लाएंगे। मैं दूसरा सवाल पूछता हूं कांग्रेस को, ये जो नारा देते हैं तो क्या कांग्रेस और उसके साथी खास करके तमिलनाडु, क्या वो वहां हिंदू मंदिरों को जो कब्जा किया जा रहा है, हस्तक्षेप किया जा रहा है, दक्षिण के अधिकतम राज्यों में यही खेल चला है। जब आप कहते हैं जितनी आबादी उतना हक, तो क्या ये हक हिंदुओं को आप वापस देंगे क्या? जवाब दीजिए। ये झूठी बातें मत करिए, लोगों को भ्रमित करने का खेल खेलना बंद कर दीजिए। कांग्रेस को, इंडी अलायंस को इस बारे में भी अपना स्टैंड साफ करना चाहिए। कांग्रेस के साथी जो तमिलनाडु में राज करते हैं, जो केरल में राज करते हैं, जो तेलंगाना में राज करते हैं, जो कर्नाटका में राज करते हैं, ये सारे साथियों को कांग्रेस से बात जवाब देना पड़ेगा। साथियों, आज देश में सबसे बड़ी जरूरतमंद जिनको डगर डगर पर मदद की जरूरत है, वो कौन है? हमारे देश के गरीब परिवार है। अगर आज इस देश की सबसे बड़ी कोई जाति है तो वो जाति गरीब है, और इन गरीबों की सबसे बड़ी जाति, उनकी सेवा, उनका कल्याण, उनकी प्रगति, यही सच्चा सामाजिक न्याय है। हमारी सरकार ने पिछले 9 सालों से गरीब कल्याण के लिए दिन रात मेहनत की है और इसके परिणाम भी सामने आ रहे हैं। नीति आयोग की रिपोर्ट कहती है कि 5 वर्ष में 13.5 करोड़ लोगों को गरीबी से बाहर लेने का पवित्र काम हमने किया है। और इसलिए मेरे लिए तो जाति अगर कोई है, देश की सबसे बड़ी जाति कोई है तो गरीब है। और अगर गरीब को गरीबी से बाहर निकालेंगे ना तो ये देश समृद्ध होने से कोई रोक नहीं पाएगा। और यही मोदी का सपना है, यही मोदी की गारंटी है, यही मोदी का संकल्प है और यही मोदी की साधना है, यही मोदी की तपस्या है। और मैं अन्य सभी राजनीतिक दलों से भी आज आह्वान करता हूं, हाथ जोड़ करके मैं देश के सभी राजनीतिक नेताओं को, सभी दल के मुखियाओं को, सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टियों को कहता हूं, आइए, आजादी के 75 साल हो गए, आइए गरीबों के कल्याण पर विचार करें, गरीबों की भलाई के लिए विचार करें, गरीबों की भलाई के लिए योजनाएं बनाएं, गरीबों के उत्थान के लिए काम करें। నా కుటుంబ సభ్యులారా, तेलंगाना विरोधी ये लोग चुनाव से पहले जनता को कुछ छोटे लाभ देकर अगले 5 साल तक तेलंगाना को लूटने का अधिकार हासिल कर लेते हैं। हमें तेलंगाना में इस परंपरा को अब उलट कर देना है भाइयों बहनों, उसको रोकना है। रोकोगे क्या? रोकोगे क्या? तेलंगाना के भाइयों बहनों, मुझ पर 5 साल भरोसा करो, ज्यादा नहीं कह रहा हूं, 5 साल भरोसा करो। इन्होंने जितना लूटा है ना, मैं आपके चरणों में ला करके रख दूंगा। आज भी कांग्रेस और बीआरएस तेलंगाना के लोगों से विश्वासघात कर रही है। कई राज्यों में कांग्रेस ने चुनाव से पहले ऐसे ही बड़े वादे किए और अब उन्हें पूरा करने के लिए 15 अलग अलग शर्त रख रही है। पहले तो बोल देते हैं ऐसा करेंगे, फिर कहते हैं ऐसा होगा तो करेंगे, ऐसा होगा तो नहीं करेंगे। ये